Before I go through these, and I'd like to go through them very particularly, I'd like to make 3 points. The first point is that I'd ask the viewers and the board to notice the code under compensation. If you see the letter F, and Ray is highlighting it, that means that it's paid for out of a grant that we wrote to for the purpose of getting the money to spend on the activity. Oftentimes the grant require women and minority-owned businesses and other tenants that have to be hit. If you see F23, that means it's coming out of the Head Start budget. F23 is the Head Start budget. And finally, before I go through each one of them, there are 4 of these 30 short-term contracts that don't have an F in front of them, they have an A. The A means general fund. The A means the $165 million general fund that you approved and the voters approved. That's what an A code is. Now, in 4 cases, and I'll explain each reason why we had to use the general fund, it comes out of the general fund of the $165 million. There are certain things that we can't pay for out of a grant, not allowable. We have to be in good audit stead. But I wanted to make that point. If you look at the first, I think it goes to contract 8. These were all for activities at the kindergarten and pre-K jamboree. I know Mr. Bilson was out there trying to do some of the events and get a haircut, but these are all part of the pre-K jamboree. We had 190 children participate in this. These are all fees paid to the different vendors to make that jamboree successful, okay? If you go to number 9.
Mr. Laurie?
Yes.
How many children are there totally, if they all appeared? How many?
417, 400, around 420. So we got about half of them out there. They also brought their siblings and their families, and it was a very nice event. Very nice. Were you there, Tom? Yeah, I know Mr. Bilson was doing a lot of the activities, but he didn't get, obviously he didn't win any of the games.
That was well attended.
It was well attended. It was much more spread out. What's that? If I may, if you look at number 9 is for Robert Jacobus, School Bus Logistics. This is a consultant that Becky and Ray and Annie Carr are using to help us improve our bus routes. Robert is a bus route strategist, and if you know the difficulties we've been having with bus routes, you know why Becky and Ray have recommended this to us. This does not fit under any grant, doesn't fit under a grant. Fixing bus routes is not a grant-aidable thing, so we're paying him out of the general fund budget. Moving ahead, let's take contracts 10 and 11, because they're both with a retired teacher for $2,225. This retired teacher is being paid for out of a grant, and she is doing math training with our new teachers and some experienced teachers, Rick, or is this new? Thank you. We just had 50 new teachers attend new teacher orientation, and she ran sessions for them, all allowable to be paid for out of a grant. We've done quite a bit of hiring, and this is what she's paid for. She's formed her own corporation. She's working on her women and minority-owned certificate, and it's an F code, and it will be paid for out of a grant that supports the training. The number 10, the grant is the Teacher Resource Center grant. The number 10 contract, the Teacher Resource Center asked for her, And the number 11 grant, I'm not sure what that grant is, but it is a grant that Rick asked for more training with our teachers, math teachers. Moving on to number 12. Number 12 is a grant for professional learning development. You could see it's for Karen Wagaman, meaning it's for a teacher center course that's coming up. Item number 13 is out of an A code. The A code is because we needed to give Dr. Joe some help with sports physicals. Maria, number 13, is a nurse practitioner, and we have an abundance of new employee and sports physicals, as Mr. Pareto well knows, to get kids taken care of. And Dr. Joe just couldn't handle all of that by herself, or she'd be here till midnight. That is not allowable under a grant. That's why it's used from the general fund budget. 14 is for diversity training for new teachers. It's the National Federation. It went on today. They had a cadre of trainers working with our teachers. This is a grant, and we need to address our DEI, or diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. Now, when you get from 15, 16, 17, all the way down to 25. All of these trainings are required by Head Start. If you notice, they're all paid for out of F23. F23 is Head Start. These are required trainings, and the money comes out of a grant. Head Start money is considered a grant. F23 needs these. Some of them are at no cost, but in order to be compliant with the Head Start rules, we needed to do these things. If you go to number 26, this is something that Val, who is working with Rick on science, is doing. Amplify is the science curriculum we use for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And this is for future professional development, again, paid for out of a grant, next week and on the 17th. So this is 2 days of science teacher training. 27 is, again, a training from Pearson. Rick, you're going to have to help me what 360 professional development is. Could you give Rick the microphone?
Thanks. You've heard us talk about in the past our screening, our behavioral screener for students in grades K through 12. This will be the second year that we've screened all of our students. This platform is kind of our next step, where it allows us to take the students' behavioral screening results and interpret them, and then assign interventions and improvement plans to students who are highly elevated or have a lot of need. So it's a multi-dimensional piece of software that is connected to the screener that we use. But there are several things that we need to train our teachers on before they can begin to use it. And even before we roll it out to teachers, we're starting with our START team. So those are the professionals that that work with students that are referred to them in the building as having some kind of difficulty, whether it's attendance or academic or behavioral. So those are school counselors, social workers, the PSA in every building. It's slightly different from building to building, but by the time we finish the professional development opening days on the 2nd, all of our START team members, it's over 60 people throughout the district, will have a 6-hour training on how to use this software for our MTSS initiatives.
Thanks, Rick. Number 28 is an A code, meaning that's your general fund budget. This person runs the Lakeside Quarter Horse Program. We have about 20 Niagara Falls High School students who want to get into the program of vet tech, veterinarian technician, in our PST2 program, so that we bus them out in small groups to work with horses during the school day. And there is a cost for the training that the young lady does with our kids, but these 20 students have been shown an interest in vet tech or veterinary science, and we want them working with animals. So that's part of the PS2 program. The last short-term contract is something that Chief Del Porto asked for. He is going to bring back this gentleman who did defensive training techniques with our safety officers. He's going to do it on September 19th and train our safety officers and deans in defensive tactics when necessary. This is an ongoing effort to do more training with our safety staff, of which we have grown the numbers leaps and bounds. So that's what, and that is an A code. We can't pay for that. We haven't found a grant. We have one that we're hoping we get approved for, but we are taking that $500 out of the general fund budget. Those, ladies and gentlemen, are the 29 world-breaking short-term contracts. If you move to tonight's new business, resolution number 1 is to accept funds for our Native American or Indian education program. It is for $109,068. This helps provide 2 teachers or 2 specialists, give Indian education to our elementary school students only. 602 is a budget amendment to carry over $785,537 for Head Start. With that money, we are going to do about $150,000 worth of renovations to the Donovan building. The garbage fee went up $15,000. We've budgeted $13,000 for utilities. We're spiffying up the playground for $63,000. We have to mill and resurface a play area at $225,000. $75,000 worth of work for the bathrooms, and $41,000 worth of work for technology updates or upgrades at the DeFrancesco building on 24th Street. The federal government is allowing us to carry $785,000 and change from that we didn't spend last year into this budget to pay for those changes. Items 603 and 604 are for you to appoint a name, I believe, or names, Judy, to the resolution, Mr. President, members of the board. The voting for the NYSBA resolutions this year is on Monday, October 17th at 4 o'clock. You know how you usually do it? It's not there. It's virtual, and it's Monday the 17th at 4 o'clock. So do you need a name or names, Judy?
Well, if it's Monday at 4 o'clock, I'll be able to do it. We could do it from here, correct, Judy?
Anybody can do it. They could certainly come in and do it from here if they prefer to.
Well, I meant
or
I
they
can do it from anywhere, right?
You can do it from anywhere.
Do not have to be at the conference.
Correct.
I'll be happy to do it. If anyone else wants to do it, they're more than welcome. But I do need an alternate. Clara Dunn volunteered. She'll be the alternate. Pardon me?
I think you need an alternate too, just in case.
Yeah, no, that's what I said,
Otherwise,
Clara?
well,
No, Clara's, it's okay. Nick?
usually the vice president's job, but
Jimmy said he'll do it. Okay. I'll be the first and Jimmy will be the second. Got it.
Okay.
Anyone want to go first? No? Okay.
Okay, Judy.
Done.
Is that what I got?
Petrosi and Kazemi.
Thank you.
605 is something that Rick Corella deserves all of the credit in the world for. He actually completed our district comprehensive improvement plan and has already sent this to the state to get their feedback. They approved without change, Rick, our draft comprehensive improvement plan, and we formally need to have you vote on this. The comprehensive improvement plan contains 4 elements, and I just want you to know what they are. They are to increase the amount of social emotional learning opportunities we have for children, to be steadfast in our work of district diversity, inclusion, and equity issues, to continue to improve academic achievement, and to reduce our out-of-school suspension rate. And those were the 4 tenets that we needed to address. Rick has written that up in the proper form. We've shared it with the administrators, and they will share it with their staffs, and the state is satisfied with it. Anything I left out, Rick?
No, just that the resolution also covers the 2 TSI schools, 79th Street and Gaskill. Their school comprehensive education plans need to be approved by the board as well.
Remember, we still have 2 schools that are targeted schools. Is that what they're calling them? 70, that's what Rick was alluding to. And we have to write plans for both of those schools in this package.
And Mr. Laurie, all those plans are posted on our website, so they're all public.
Good. That's important for everyone to and the viewing audience should know that. You could read these plans. They're posted. And we've done it for all the schools, but 79th and Gaskill had to be submitted. 606, we continue to provide multiple strategies to reach children. Rick and team trained 28 teachers this year in the Orton-Gillingham model. We do have students that require therapy, professional therapy for dyslexia. We are contracting with the Western New York dyslexia specialists to provide services for those children. In addition to that, we're starting to train our own teachers in a protocol called Orton-Gillingham. 607 is money going to the Niagara Falls Boys Club. It is for 100 students to work in the United 716 program that is run through the Boys Club. This money is being paid for by a $1 million 21st century grant. This money is not coming out of your general fund. We have a $1 million prep school grant, and it's currently run out of the Boys Club. You may have seen advertisements where Mr. Sanquin Starks runs the program. I believe that last year's police firefighter football game, the proceeds went to this program. It's gaining a lot of notoriety. I know Assemblyman Morinello has been pushing us on this, and we were able to fund this from a grant. And the principals of both high schools have seen a marked difference in the behavior and learning of the 100 students in the program. It's grown to now include a girls' basketball feeder program. So I'm real happy that we could use some of our grant money to do this. 608, I believe I spoke about 608 before. I thought I was doing something wonderful, and I'm very embarrassed to tell you that when I was making all those auto dialer calls, I never thought, and I apologize to our ENL population, that there were members of the population that don't understand our language, that have students in the district. So what we are going to do through Niagara University is offer a Saturday morning class for our ENL population, their parents. This is a parenting class. It will be taught by a Niagara University professor named Elizabeth Falzone. She works with our ENL population. She's got 24 parents already signed up. The first meeting is Saturday, September 17th at Abbott. They'll meet every Saturday until Christmas with a few days off. And she will teach she'll teach functional English skills to ENL parents, and also provide babysitting for the children that are coming with their parents. It is, I misspoke, it's 25 signups already. We're getting to the point where we're going to have to do this again in the spring, because she doesn't want the group to be that large. because there's different languages in there, as well as levels of understanding.
How many languages do
We have 17 languages in our district.
how many languages in the class, do you know yet?
No, I don't. Yeah, I haven't looked at the sign-up sheet. I just looked at the number.
You have 17 languages?
Yeah. We have children who come from homes that speak 17 different languages. And you know, some of them are here with you for the seal of biliteracy, but we want to start where I do own this. We do need to have the parents understand what we're saying. And I'm hoping to translate our auto dialer messages that I bother everybody with from time to time and make sure that we're able to do that in multiple languages. You won't. You won't, Nick. 609. 609 is professional development. It is $8,000. It is paid for out of a grant, the Family and Community Engagement Grant and the Early Scholars Grant. This is to help the families of our students who are in the Early College Scholars Program. They go to Niagara University, and later on in this agenda, you'll see a resolution for $46,000 because we pay for their courses. This is a grant to help provide professional development and learning to their parents and to the teachers that will be teaching in the program. 610 is for Playworks. This is something that we started when we did sister schools. One of the requests from sister schools over 2 years ago was to build in safe, healthy recess and lunchtime practices. Playworks has done this on a smaller scale for the last 3 or 4 years. They worked in the summer program with the Boys and Girls Club, and now they're going to come in and work with Abbott, Kelfis, and Niagara Street on building proper recess techniques and lunchtime activities. This is staff development for our non-instructional staff and for our instructional staff so that the recess time that's used is used appropriately. 611 is a contract with Booker College Planning. It's for $21,405, and that is paid for by the following grants that are listed. This is for college planning for any student who is in P-TECH or the Smart Scholars Early College Grant. The number of students impacted in this grant will be 127. We have about 26 or so in the early college program and over 101 in the P-TECH program. They'll start getting their college planning in 9th grade. 612 is, this is $46,000 paid for by a grant. This pays for the courses for our 26 early college students to take at Niagara University or at the high school so that they get college credit. We don't make the kids pay, we pay, and we get the money from the early college grant, and it funnels through us to Niagara University. 613 is the contract for Ron Cunningham. I think we've talked about that quite a bit. This is the extension to add 3 additional staff workers to work with him. His job is to prevent truancy and work at the disposal of the principals, and also under Ray's direction to retrieve laptop computers that have not been recovered. And I'm telling the viewing audience that we still do have laptops that are outstanding. And that's the first item that he and his team will work on.
Mr. Laurie?
Yes, sir.
I'm not against that. My question, I guess, is one of the things that's always bothered me is how we measure the efficiency of this type of a program. Supposedly, or reports are done every time they go to a home and turned into somebody, I don't know who. And I don't know why we've never received anything in writing about how many students maybe were brought in, so we know what he's doing. The laptops, I know he's gotten some of them already. He's working on that, so that'd be nice to know. I think one of the things I was wondering if he brought the students to school and what our liability is on that, because he does drive in his own car. And who signs probably the visitation slip. But there's just, I think we just need to have a little bit more. Now with 3 people, 4 people,
Yes, 4 people.
yeah, that's gonna be harder to keep track of, I think, but I still think I don't know who the administrator is that looks over it, but I think somebody should report to us probably just like once every 20 weeks or something, let us know what's going.
So let me go through the 3 answers to the questions that I heard. There's a packet near your table, and if you look at if you go back to the packet, there are the forms that are turned into me every month in the packet. So how this works is the principal and I receive a copy of the form. I review it, and if it meets all the requirements of what we expect from him, I take the form, give it to Becky or Julie to file in his folder in case we're ever audited, and that is accompanied by his pay stub. He's an independent contractor who takes on the liability of anything that he does, to your other point. That includes visitations. On the last page, unfortunately, but we're often asking him to deliver suspension letters, and that is included as well. I have a folder for every month of the kids that they see, who they spoke to, what the outcome of the visit was, and the principal's sign-off on it. I'll be happy to bring to you to the next meeting or every month the entire packet of the contacts that he and his team have made. Becky, am I correct on that process? So I'm happy, I will start bringing them on a monthly basis.
Thank you.
Do we know who the employees he has are?
I do. I mean, I know who they are, but they're his employees.
Do they have to go through background checks?
They did,
They did? Okay.
yes. Yeah, and I even though he is an independent contractor, I do have their background information.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Mark, if I may ask a question, absentee has always been a topic. What are we doing differently? What are we going to do different this year to expect maybe different results?
Well, we're increasing the number of programs that we have because it's not just about truancy. So it's about PS2. It's about all of those enhanced programs that we're talking about here. It's about going and getting kids up. It's about having the pupil service teams have a list from day one and calling and calling and calling, because he can't do this alone. Absenteeism is a 25% problem in some schools. So we have bigger and more staffed pupil service teams to reach out to those students, to connect with them. What Rick was describing earlier, maybe in one of the short-term contracts about the MSST program, Rick, you want to jump on that as well?
One of the trainings that we're having in the opening professional development days that Mark mentioned earlier was the Review 360 program. And so that allows us to gather data from different sources, including the behavioral screening, but other sources as well, so that we can track and get to the bottom of what is causing a child to have some issues in school. For example, if they're lagging behind in their academics, often it's due to poor attendance. So that team then will have the ability to put a specialized plan in place so that they can check in with the family, check in with the students, and schedule on a regular basis touch points with the family to make sure that the student is attending. So attendance is one issue that program will allow us to target, plan for, and then progress monitor as well. So there are points to Mr. Consemi's question about how many contacts do we make and what are the results of each. The software has the ability for us to be able to track what we do with a student, see if they're responsive to it, if it's either solved the problem or if we need to move on and try a different tactic.
We also at the high school have a 5-member PASS team whose sole responsibility at the high school is to connect with kids with poor attendance. That's the only way we're going to continue to grow a upward trending graduation rate, is to get them in school. Thank you.
Mr. Laurie, do you have to put the race on the sheet?
Pardon me?
Do we have to put the breakdown of race on the sheet? Is that for,
Is it on there?
yeah, on the bottom of the Niagara Falls City School District Truancy Prevention Report?
Yes. We don't have to put it on his sheet, but we have to track it for the state report.
Really?
Yes. The cells on the state report card are tracked by race. So we're just trying to mirror the state report card. That's why we did it this way. So we can see if, do we have a problem with our, and we do. We have a problem with our Hispanic population in attendance. It's helpful to know that. We were able to have a short-term contract last year with a gentleman's name who escapes me, and I can't think of his name, because our Hispanic population during COVID, and this is a broad statement, and I don't mean the hyperbole of all, but had a much higher absentee rate than any, percentage-wise, than any ethnicity group in the district. And I would have never known that had we not looked at that. You know who I'm talking about, Rick?
His LLC is called Native Language Services. So we have included his contract also in the upcoming consolidated grant. So we'll continue to work with him. He targets families. He's multilingual, and so he's able to help us go out to homes, much like Mr. Cunningham does, and find out why students are not attending and hopefully solve the problem.
That's the reason why. It was good data to know that, just that statement. And I in no way am implying that our Hispanic population is the only population with an attendance issue. We have lots of issues with attendance, as you said. But that's why we were able to drill down into that ethnicity and find that out.
So with that said, I mean, data is king now. Data is everything. Do we know if Ron Cunningham and his team have anybody, now, just using what you're saying, Hispanic, does he have anybody that speaks Spanish and or of a Hispanic descent on his team?
No, not to my knowledge, yes.
So, which begs the next question, could we provide this service, since it's 25% of our major issue in the district, attendance, could we provide the service better as a district by creating our own truancy team and doing it ourselves?
Cost-wise, I don't think so. Because if we hire them as employees, they get other benefits that we're not paying through this independent contract. For instance...
I get it,
Yeah.
but I still think that maybe before signing this, it could be worth a look, that we find a way to do it ourselves.
Just as a point of reference, and I'm happy to have you pull this contract. It's your wish. It's your wish. If Buffalo uses 20 people, it's about $80,000 a person, $85,000 all in. So, but they use employees, and then they have other costs beyond that. I think you call it legacy costs, Russ. There's no legacy cost here.
I guess what I'm trying to say is,
Yeah.
if this is a major issue
Yeah.
amongst all of us, I like it in your hands
Yeah.
better than somebody else's.
It's up to you. He said he preferred in my hands as opposed to an outside contractor. I appreciate that.
I'm going to piggyback on what you said, Paul. The people that are now joining him, are they qualified? Are they teachers? Were they past teachers? Are they people just out of the community that walk in and
They're pastors and community people.
they're pastors, and
Pastors, church pastors and community people.
all three of them?
Yeah. Well, two of them. Two of them are pastors. All three of them are community people, including him. Right. Whatever your pleasure.
I've been on this board for 3 years. We've been going back and forth about attendance and graduation. You know, it's only 3 short years compared to most of you on this board. And I don't know that we're getting the bang for our buck. Like, is it time to pivot and do something different? It's a major issue. We want our kids in school. We need them in school as far as the city. If they're in school, they're probably, knock on wood, not causing trouble on our streets.
No.
So it's a full encompassing issue, not just for our school district, but for the quality of life of our city. Can we do better? Can we come to some sort of plan and agreement to do better for our kids?
Certainly up to you guys.
I
Well,
have a,
I'm not sure how many hours they put in or how we expect them to work. I'm not sure how we expect them to work. But we are getting 4 people
Yes,
for 80 grand.
yes.
If we have 4 people, the benefits alone will cost us 100 grand or plus. They're just, I'm not saying, you got a point, I'd rather see it in his hands. I do agree. But is it worth a
Speak into the
$500,000?
mic. Can you please speak into the mic?
Okay, I'm sorry. My comment was, if we had 4 people, they were our employees, it would cost us 100 grand alone for their benefits, plus the legacy costs, plus everything else. We're talking for 4 people, probably somewhere about $500,000 versus 80 grand. Now, I'm not saying that's not the way not to go. Yes, I would agree. The question is a cost-benefit analysis. I don't have an answer. I'm going to leave that up to my colleagues. Tony, you haven't spoken yet. Okay.
Mark, this is a question, this is a grant question. I don't know if we can answer it right now or not. But if we were to go this other route, are these funds, can we get a grant for these funds?
We could attempt to.
We don't know if, like, just off the top of our head, we don't really know if there is anything out there right now. We would have to research it.
Rick, in those grants that you worked on, and I can't think of the name of both of them, you know what I'm referring to? Is there money available in those? We didn't get them yet. We have 2 grants in.
Sure.
Is there any tie into that for truancy prevention?
I probably have to think more about it. On the surface, I would say no, without taking a deeper dive. The one is for student mental health services, and we're waiting to see if that has been awarded to us. And the other one is the Stop School Violence Grant, which is a program grant that provides services to students to better manage their emotions, behavior, and so on. And in other words, to function without resorting to conflict or violence.
Right.
So that's a quick synopsis of each of those grants. I don't know where attendance prevention in terms of an FTE or a qualified employee who's only concentrated on that one thing would fit into either of those.
Okay, yeah, the reason why is, you know, because I was kind of piggybacking on Russell's, you know, overcost of looking at this. We're going to have hard numbers on this. If we approve this contract, we're going to have better records, and you're going to make them more available to board members to see if this thing's actually working. I mean, basically, we wouldn't have put this up for a vote if it wasn't working somewhat.
Oh, it's helped.
Yes.
It's definitely helped.
I mean, it's not the end all to be all.
No, he's completely
And I
right.
know I've spoken to him many times, and I've seen him out and about, and he's going to kids' houses, but.
I mean,
Clara?
this has been, you know, I've heard about Mr. Cunningham doing this program way before I became a board member. And, you know, I hear good things about what he's doing. Rob asked Mr. Laurie to check out the cost of what it would be for us to have our own truancy officers, and he did it. and the cost would be much more than what we're paying Mr. Cunningham. My other point will be is Mr. Cunningham is out there all hours of the day, because if he can't get a person at home 1 hour of the day, he might be out there late at night. He has a very good rapport in the community. There are some people in the beginning that I know of would not let him step on their door, on their porch. Now they have the confidence in him. They will let him in, drag their kid from upstairs to downstairs. Cost effective, I think we're saving money by having Mr. Cunningham, and I think we're also saving hours. Because if we have our own employees and you tell them to go out there beyond and past their normal hour, you know they are not going to do it. And if they do, we are going to have to pay them overtime.
Anybody else want to add? Okay, so we're gonna vote on this evening?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
If I may ask one question, this is a one-year contract, cancelable, 30 days out?
Yes, sir.
If it doesn't work out, we always have it 30 days out. But I think maybe what, Mark, if I may suggest this?
Sure.
Maybe after the first quarter, we have them come in and meet with us?
Sure.
You know, that way we can personally, our concerns or our congratulations, whatever it may be. Okay, Nick, I think you
Well,
got
just
something
one
to say?
thing. Mark, how long is, I've been on board 17 years, and I don't remember not being on the board without Ron Cunningham having this position.
I'm going to say over 10 years. I think.
10 years?
Jimmy, did you incorporate Ron Cunningham?
Have we had any problems with them in
No.
developing? No.
No.
No, I see him out a lot. I know he's doing a good job. And it's tough. It's tough dealing with parents. And I think the only place we may fall a little short with truancy is not getting to the parents and having the parents take some responsibility to get their kids to school and make sure they get there.
Ray, I just got a message from Earl Bass. He said, Ray, do you have the feed muted? Okay, I'm getting buzzed in by him. Okay. Okay, I will provide the monthly, if this passes, I will provide the monthly statements. I'll bring them every month.
Mr. Laurie, I'm very glad to see this paraphernalia that we've received. I mean, I've been here 16 years. It's the first time I've ever seen anything like it. I'm sorry? Is that his fault that we don't see? This here?
Right, we did, that's why we got
Well,
it.
that's what I think. I think the question was brought up, and that's why it was presented to what he
Yeah,
does.
we asked for it, so.
Yeah, we asked for it, so that's
Yeah,
what he
he's always
does.
been accommodating.
We asked.
Paul?
Make no mistake here. I wasn't questioning his ethics, attention to his job. I'm looking purely at results. I mean, money is one thing, but when we're talking about 25% of our kids not showing up for school, when you're talking cost benefits, I mean, quality sometimes overweighs quantity. So I just want to know, even if we're spending 80 grand, I want to know that he's raising the attendance rate 1%. Because what's his metric? He goes to doors and he makes people smile, great. But is he getting kids into our schools? Plain and simple.
Nick?
The only way to really test that is don't have him work for a month to see what the attendance rate is. That's your metric, is how many kids he gets to school.
Hire somebody different.
Yeah. What?
And see if it raises.
I mean, he is the older gentleman. He's not gonna be doing this thing.
You know, I think,
Every year it's a question of attendance. What are we doing different?
I think going forward, using last year as a metric's nothing. Last year was a disaster when we first started.
Yeah.
I think we keep an eye on it this year. We have a lot of options going forward. Let's see how this works out. You know, I'm sure Mark will express our concerns.
Yep.
And we'll follow them through, and if it doesn't work out, then we can always do something different.
Yeah, it's a good comment because we've decreased the reason we're increasing our graduation rate is because we've increased our dropout rate and attendance rate, even though last year was a pretty bad year. Since we've shortened our dropout rate from 25% to 7%, what I've told the staff is, at 25%, the highest graduation rate you can have is 75%. And that's not good. And you know it's not, every kid's not gonna make it. I'm just being realistic. Now we're at 7%. The best we could have is 93%, and you're seeing our graduation rate go up. But with the attendance rate not being there, that's not gonna be sustainable in the long run, if I'm hearing you correctly.
Mark, just one comment that I did speak to Mr. Cunningham personally, and I asked what can we do to do things differently, and he asked that he gets the names sooner, not when they're 12 or 14. And I don't want to be quoted on what day they get them, but he wants them earlier, sooner, and not a bad idea.
No, you can have them after the first 4 days of school.
Perfect.
First 4 days of school.
Okay, could we move on? Thank you.
I just want to go to 6:15 before I go to 6:14, just so you understand why. We are hoping to embark on a number of capital projects in the next couple of months, from secured vestibules to wired and alarm doors to a chiller system at Niagara Falls High School to a roof at CEC, just to name a few. The project labor agreement with labor has expired, and I'm recommending that we redo or re-up the project labor agreement to use a PLA in all of those projects. It expired. In order to have a PLA, what we've always done is used a justification person, and that was Tim Sealer. That's why it's Sealer Engineering. What Mr. Sealer has done is he's reviewed the project that we're still scoping and did a cost analysis to justify why a project labor agreement is better than just opening it up to any of the labor force. So I'm suggesting that we pass this resolution with Mr. Sealer, sit down with our construction manager, who's in 614, and begin to do the justification study of a project labor agreement for those 5 to 8 projects that I just kind of outlined for you. That's what this resolution is for. He charges $15,975 to do it, and he gives us a breakdown of what it would cost to use union labor versus the savings we'd get if we opened it up across the board. On our bigger projects, on the last $55 million project, we saved $642,000, if I recall the project labor agreement justification. On top of that, if we were ever challenged as to why we used a project labor agreement, this would be the document we would put forth in a challenge wherever it came from. So that's why I'm asking you for your support of that.
It also puts local people to work. And that's what we're trying to send out, sorry. That's what we're trying to send out here as a message, is we want our people to go to trade schools if they're not college material, and then we want to also give that back to the community. And what we've done over the years, since I've been on this board for 9 years, is we have delivered jobs to this area with all local workers. Nobody from Ohio or Michigan or even California. We've got local workers making a living wage, keeping the economy going, and some of it has been our millions and millions of dollars through this PLA. And I recommend we move on it.
Thanks. 614 is we put an RFP out. Was it Earl? We put out an RFP, and because we had Buffalo Construction Consultants before, they've done a good job for us. They are the apparent best contractor for construction management services to do all the scheduling and watching for all those projects I just outlined. But we did put this out to RFP, and I think it's a good practice, and now we're recommending that they continue as your construction managers. We've been nothing but satisfied. They have been in front of you month to month to month. I think you know some of the faces, even though there's been some turnover, who they are. And I'm recommending that we continue, even though we put out an RFP to see if there was any other better bids, better cost savings, or better workers. And I don't recommend that there are or is. Those are all of the resolutions for this evening. If you'd scroll up, or down, Ray, my bad. There is a meeting on September 8th and the 22nd. The 8th, I'm going to slide, I may slide capital projects across because you've got to review those NISBA resolutions so that your delegates can know how to vote on the 17th. And that may be a much shorter meeting for some certain football reasons that evening, if you know what I'm talking about. So I may slide that one topic to the 22nd. Having said that, and I appreciate your questions, I'd like to ask Ms. Massaro to come forth and take you through the personnel report. And I'm going to give her well, let me give you a lead in, Maria. Come on, walk slowly.
Yeah. Mark, can I ask you a question first
Sure.
before you start, Maria? With regards to NISBA, is there a conflict with our meeting and the convention?
Yes.
Will we have to change our meeting dates?
Yes, I was going to see in September if you'd like to change. Okay. You have a meeting on October 27th. That's the date the conference starts, Mr. Velardo. I was going to see if you wanted to maybe move that to the 20th, so the meetings would be the 13th and the 20th that month.
Okay.
But I was going to bring that to you in September.
All right.
Okay, but you're looking ahead in your calendar. Pretty good. Let me give Maria her due props because she deserves them. If you could have seen, I would say this room yesterday, the occupancy is what, 200, Earl? What is it? I can't read the sign back there. It was 2/3 full with new employees. 2/3, Maria, 2/3 full with a diverse audience of new non-instructional employees were in these seats yesterday. And Maria, Alicia, Rick, Ray, everybody gave their presentation to them. Today we went to the amphitheater at Niagara Falls High School. And you know how it's in two sides. One side of the amphitheater was just about 90% full, that's 110 seats, with new teachers. We have hired, through the direction of our human resource administrator, an incredibly high number of qualified employees. I've told the press that we don't have a problem because our human resources officer or administrator started this in April. Not only did she do this, she had contracts put in front of them, she had positions, worked with principals to get their feedback, scheduled physicals, did all of the proper paperwork, interviews, et cetera, and she presents to you tonight a personnel report on both sides of the aisle, classified and certificated, and I don't think her work is still done. I think she'll tell you she does have some more to hire. But it was darn impressive, and unlike some other districts, we are less than a dozen across the whole district, including an associate here or there, short of opening school. 3 teaching positions, I believe, 2 school psychologists and a science teacher, and just a few other positions maybe to fill in for a maternity leave or a sick leave. Maria, you did a remarkable job, and I want to give you my appreciation.
Thank you, Mr. Loy. I couldn't have done it without you, the team, or the board. And it's nice to have money, right? It's
It's nice to have money.
It's nice to have money because we can really give our students what they need in terms of staff ratios when you have the funds to do so. So it makes my job actually fun. A little bit of stress, but it makes it actually fun when you get to give people jobs and make them happy because they get to come to work and they're happy about that. So it does.
I just want to say one thing. You're being modest, but I also want to address the diversity that we've been able to hire. And I'll ask Ms. Massaro at a later date to compare the numbers of ethnicities we had 3 years ago, 2 years ago, and then this year. And I think you're going to be very pleased because it is our belief that we are a diverse school district and a diverse community, and we've got to have employees that mirror our students. So she had that in mind with her work. I'll stop right there.
Okay, so thank you, Mr. Laurie. Starting with the certificated report, I know that you've had it. We have a number of retirements that you're seeing here, and those retirements are folks who needed to, by August 1st, provide us with their 1-year notice. I'm on page 1 right now. Provide us with their 1-year notice so that they would qualify for lifetime medical benefits. You'll see that there's a teacher at the top of page 2 and another teacher in the middle there of that section, and then the teacher at the bottom that are not qualified for lifetime medical but did decide to retire over the summer and have their effective date of their retirement be sooner. But the majority that you see here are folks that gave us their notice so that they would qualify for lifetime medical benefits. Then you'll see some resignations. We're actually still getting some resignations. It's an interesting time of year. School starts next week for teachers. August 31st is their actual first day under their contract this year. And we're still seeing some folks who are calling just today saying either they're not going to be coming back or they're going to retire or they might resign. So you're going to continue to see those through next week. Then the fun part starts. These are our probationary appointments. You see that we have teachers all across the board as well as administrators that we're presenting to you. At the beginning of the summer, I was very concerned with not having second language teachers, and you see we've gotten 2 second language teachers, and not only have we gotten 2 second language teachers, we've recruited them out of other districts. These are experienced teachers, so I'm happy about that and very proud of all of you because your school district is attractive enough to get in qualified educators from across the state. Okay, moving on to our regular substitute appointments. These, again, have to do with we're taking deans, we're pulling out people on special assignment. We've started a different academy at Niagara Falls High School, and we've also added a science teacher. We've added a special education teacher, and we're going to be coming to you to add another special education teacher, and we're adding people to teach our alternative classes in the prep schools and in Niagara Falls High School. So this is a reflection of the hiring that we need to do, but it's additionally a reflection of some new programs that Mr. Laurie is giving the principals the opportunity to implement. And then as we move through, the other very special thing that we have on our personnel report this evening is tenure. It seems as though we may be taking it lightly, but remember, tenure is an employment status. These people are all to be congratulated on the fact that they have reached the status of tenure. That means that their attendance, their evaluations, and their classroom performance are such that in the past 4 years, they've done enough of a good job, actually a great job, to have Mr. Laurie recommend them to you for the employment status of tenure. I do want to mention here that I have to give you my apologies, and I have to give Mr. Orfano my apologies for putting him at the wrong location on this report. It was just an oversight, and he is actually a tenured level 3 principal administrator, and his current location is as the principal of 79th Street School. So I do apologize for that error on the report. But again, these are folks who have all worked very hard and who have received tenure because they've earned it. They're being granted that status because they've earned it. Then next you'll see some voluntary transfers. The involuntary transfers. The involuntary transfers that you see here, 3 of them are due to speech. We had to change some of the pairings for speech, so these teachers were changed. And then the other teacher, that was as a result of some issues that we confronted this year in school. And then the other teacher at the very bottom of the page, that was because we closed a classroom at Maple Avenue and reopened a classroom at Abbott. Voluntary transfers, these are in our Head Start program. We have changed some teachers around in the Head Start program, and the last person there has decided to go from a 12-month to a 10-month position. Change of status, we're also changing there. Now, The next 12, 13 pages of this document, you could thank Mr. Corella for. And you could thank him for all of his hard work, and you could thank him for helping us get the teachers for the programs, and you could thank him for the programs themselves. This is summer work, this is curriculum work, this is Schedule B work that all occurred over the summer under his guidance. So we have to thank him for that, and the teachers should thank him, and the students should thank him as well for all of that work. When you go to page 21 of page 25, you see we're starting with the athletic placement process, the fall coaching positions in Schedule C. I know that we had some bad news about one of our programs recently, but I know that Mr. Laurie is saying that we are going to make sure that we change that very shortly. Some schedules D, E, F, and G. Typically, we put those on later in the year, but we decided to put them on now, and you may see them again in the future. And then we have some AM and PM duties starting and having to go back to the last school year because we missed them on our last reports. Any questions about that report? A lot of pages to go through very quickly. Okay, moving on to the classified report. The classified report is very similar. We've had some folks who are retiring, some folks who are resigning, and then we've had our probationary appointments. One thing that I will say here, and if we have our opportunity to talk about our summer vacation, one of the things that we did in the Human Resources Office on our summer vacation is we had and conducted our own job fair. And the people that you see listed here as food service helpers were all folks that came to our job fair. We were able to hire 19 new food service helpers as a result of that, and those are all people that Kevin did need in his kitchens to get the food all ready. You're seeing some transfers, some voluntary and involuntary transfers, change of status, leave of absence, and again, some additional hours, some open house hours, some Camp Wolverine hours, and all of the hours attached to the Summer Extended Elementary Learning Program. Any questions about the classified report?
Classified as 1 through 12, am I correct?
Yes, sir.
And personnel, certificated 1 through 14?
Well, I have 25, but yours may be front and back.
No, not pages, I mean numbers.
Oh, the numbers, yes. The Roman numerals? Yes, sir.
Numerals 1 through 14?
Yes, sir, yes.
And classified as 1 through 12?
Yes.
Anybody need anything taken out? Voted separately? One question, Maria. Where's that one name? Hang on 1 second, I can find it, little certificate.
It's on page, I think it's 21 of 25, Mr. Petrosi?
Yeah, I'm looking.
Check page 21.
You got it there?
Yeah, is this what, yeah, I'm sorry. Is this what you want?
Yeah, was there anybody else that applied for that position?
Can you go, do you mind if I tell her where to look? Page 21 of 25. Set Roman numeral 13. XII, I think that's 13. Is that 13, Rick? XII? Julie, 13?
I can check, but I don't believe that person would have been selected if there was, but I can certainly check.
Maria can read your mind, Russ. She's good. She's reading your mind, Russ. Right, sometimes there aren't enough candidates for the coaching positions, and you have to take, well,
Seconds.
go ahead.
It's, teachers have first call on those. Do we have the option of not accepting a person?
Unfortunately, no, and the reason for that is what Mr. Laurie was alluding to. We want to provide the sport to students, and then if we don't have enough coaches and we say no to one of the teachers, then we don't have a coach.
Right, well, no, where I'm going with that, there may be other people in the district that would want to coach that.
Right, but NFT, the teachers get the first shot.
That was my question.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Is there a qualification of who could teach it? It just if you're an NFT member?
They do have to be coaching certified. So
Understood.
they do have to get certified, if they're not phys ed teachers, so phys ed teachers are automatically coaching certified if
Okay.
you're a physical education teacher. If you're not a physical education teacher, there are things that, or you don't have
Okay.
to be a teacher, you have to get certified to be a coach. Okay?
One,
Yes. Yes, he just said the same.
I have a quick follow-up because I feel like you were asking another question, and if you weren't, I still want to ask the question. So if you get through the teachers, and I'm going to ask Russ's question again, if we say no, then how do we go out? We can go outside of teachers, correct? And if we do, what is that process?
The problem is, we can't go outside of teachers if there's one that's available, because then it's grievable, right? So
Oh,
there's-
even if you decide you don't want, okay, I got you, okay.
But going outside means that if we don't have a teacher or teachers that are interested in coaching, we can get somebody from another unit in the district. or
That's
can
where we go
actually-
first, excuse me.
Oh, yeah.
We always go to another unit first because of the liability.
An employee.
An employee, they're an
Another
employee of ours. And then we've also had cases, because I can think of one sport, where we went outside the other unit and still didn't get anybody, and I think we went to another district.
We did.
We went to another district, Kenmore, and the gentleman was from Kenmore as a teacher, and we approved him here as a coach in here. But we exhausted 6 unions before we went to the outside people. That's the agreement that we have.
Maria, one other quick question. Are teaching assistants in the NFT,
Yes.
correct?
So they would qualify as well.
And they would qualify equal to a teacher?
Yes.
Okay, just so I understand. Thank you.
I would say no.
Great job. Members of the board, viewing public, that is our meeting for this evening. Now, we took an inordinate amount of time because we didn't have this lively conversation before like we will on the 8th. So we did take an hour and 15 minutes because you are going to be asked to vote on these in the next 15 minutes. Having said that, Mr. Petrosi, I know you wanted to move to the discussion on remote attendance issue, and I'll turn that over to you.
Yes, we have to make actually, we don't have to make a decision. We're not going to make it tonight, but I'm looking for direction to, if we want to continue with the ability to do virtual meetings, virtual video meetings, or if we do not. The way Angelo and Judy have let me understand that we would, if we choose to go forward, the law is going to allow us, Angelo and Judy, please correct me. I'm going to let Angelo speak. In extenuating circumstances, we can do video, but we must have a public hearing, we must have a resolution, we must vote on it, and it's for extenuating circumstances. So saying that, I'm going to let Angelo give us a brief, very brief. Brief. And then Judy, you can jump in, and I want to thank both of them, you know, for all the work on this. So why don't you give us a brief oversight, and then we can decide, give me the direction you wish to go, and we will we will prepare what you need.
Angela, one second.
Various adoption of various
Angelo,
legislation.
hold on a minute. Rob.
Yes.
Just so that I'm clear. So, Angela will be presenting options for us on potential future remote attendance.
He's going to give us what the law says.
Gotcha, and you're gonna canvass the board as to whether we even want to have a discussion.
No, you guys are going to give me direction tonight whether I should prepare a resolution. We don't have to vote, but if there's not interest to do it, I won't. If there's interest to do it, I will, then we will
Fair enough, thanks.
vote on it. I think that's the correct way to go.
That's the procedure. Once the determination is made that you wish to have 4, and it provides, again, for a specific way of allowing video conferencing. Again, you must adopt the resolution, and you can adopt it not only for this board, but you can also adopt the resolution to include committees of this board. And the most likely one would be, if you wanted to be the audit committee, to also allow conference. The important thing is that unlike during the time of the pandemic, and it's extended from time to time till September of last year, when the new governor extended it to January of this year, then it became null and void in January, and then the new legislation became effective in April. And unlike before, there still has to be a meeting with the quorum that remains a public meeting, so that the entire Board of Education cannot go remotely as you did during the pandemic. And there are strict provisions with relation to both aspects of that, both aspects as far as the meeting, which is public, and the meeting, those who participate. Now, the law says that there is no exception that the members of the board must attend, okay, unless they are, it must be physically present at such meeting, unless they are unable to be physically present due to extraordinary circumstances, such as disability, illness, caregiving responsibility, or any other significant and unexpected factor or event which precludes the members' physical attendance at such meeting. And basically that would apply to the meeting except for anything which has to do with executive session. Now, the reasons are specifically stated in the legislation, and it allows for some leeway of expanding the reasons, as I was reading it there, to other significant or unexpected factors. So the board, if it were to decide to do it, the members must be present unless there are these extraordinary circumstances, and unless those extraordinary circumstances include the items that I mentioned and anything else that you may be appropriate. But I caution the board that the expansion of the extraordinary circumstances into some different areas must be such that they are unexpected and significant and extraordinary. It just can't be the regular type of an operation as far as conducting the meeting. Now that, of course, are issues that will be tested over time, but there's not too much time because in the legislation, again, is due to expire the 24th. Now, prior to the time it expires, the Office of Open Government will make a report to the governor and the legislature as to the success for the meeting itself. The procedures, which will put the burden on the board through the clerk's office, shall ensure that board members can be heard, seen, and identified if they are remotely. So when you see it on the screen, and while the meeting is being conducted, people can refer and see that they're being remotely present at the meeting. The minutes of the board meeting that involved a video conference will include members who participated remotely and shall be available to the public. Now, when you read that, it's very clear that the person who participates remotely is not predetermined or put into the notice that has to be given, nor does the notice that have to be given indicate that. So it's only an after a post-meeting that it's identified that Angela Massaro, board member, participated remotely itself. The notice for the meeting shall inform the public that it has video conferencing will be used, where the public can view or participate in such meeting, and where required documents and records will be posted or available, and identify the physical location for the meeting. Now, it probably goes without saying, it's all in this room itself. But Judy will have to place and do a form, as I may suggest, a form notice of the meeting that will allow down. If you notice, under the notice section, it doesn't say that you have to identify the board member. And in one way, it's logical, because if it's extraordinary, the extraordinary part may be a call to the clerk on the morning that my wife is going to the hospital to have a baby, and therefore I won't be present, and it can't be in the notice itself. So the logic of the legislation is there when you analyze it. The board minutes must be posted on our website, and it requires Board of Education to have a website. Some do not. We are very advanced, of course. And they remain there for 5 years, but they also are transcribed at the request made by an individual to the board. The district must provide that it can be public viewed, as I said, and that the public can participate via video conference in real time. So if they come here, they're participating in real time. The in-person participation requirements in a video conference will not apply, of course, if there's a disaster situation like a pandemic or a local determination of an disaster. So if the county legislature determines there's a disaster that occurs for a month, you can almost go totally remote. There are that type of a determination, state and county, is appropriate. And the emergency, as I just stated, could be state or local. And that basically, from there, as I had mentioned before, January 1st, 2024, there'll be a report that's issued. Now, there's been a great deal of talk between myself and the clerk and the president and I shouldn't say talk, discussion, and the superintendent. I can find nothing in the legislation, as it was in the past legislation, that requires the board member to be identified on video conferencing, and also the place and location that that board member will be located when video conferencing is approved, if he satisfies or she satisfies the extraordinary methods. Those provisions were there during the pandemic, and those provisions also were there even prior to the pandemic. Now, unless there's some indication that it must be, they must be identified beforehand and given to me so I could review it, it'll be my recommendation that we follow this legislation strictly as it is written and as I've indicated to you. And we only note who went video conferencing in the minutes itself. So that basically, Mr. President and Mr. Superintendent, members of the board, is what you're looking at. If you just end with where Russell began, if you decide today you have 5 votes to implement the video conferencing, then the superintendent, I'm sure, will direct the staff to prepare the appropriate resolution. And to do that, you'd have to let the president, and you have to have a discussion between yourselves as to whether there's anything else that you may consider as extraordinary circumstance, and if so, define it, and if so, once defined, to place it in the resolution.
Okay, so Angelo, is work an extenuating circumstance?
I think work could be an extenuating circumstance. And I guess the best example I have of that is if an individual has a 8 to 4 work schedule and he's in a supervisory position, and suddenly there's also in the place where he works 4 to 12 schedule, and suddenly he's called at 12 o'clock at noon that the supervisor in the 4 to 12 took sick and you've got to come in. That to me would be extraordinary circumstances, and he would notify the board and go remotely on that. But a regularly scheduled type would not, in my opinion, unless there's others who think otherwise, those would be extraordinary. That's normal.
Okay. Comments, questions, direction? I do have, I have to say one thing. As an employer, I have no interest as an employer. If I had someone at my place at a video conference for 4 hours, we'd have a problem. I just, as an employer, I cannot see we can obligate an employer to pay someone for 4 hours. Why be video conferencing? Unless it was a sincere emergency and necessary thing. I just want to put that out there. But colleagues, direction. Yes, sir, Paul.
I don't see why we would not adopt this as a 21st century organization with the technology to be able to do it, to just afford ourselves the option. It's just a tool in our tool belt if and when we need to use it. Not that everybody's going to take advantage of it, but everybody in this room has family, circumstances. Just give us the option to be able to come in remotely, because at the end of the day, we all want to represent the citizens in Niagara Falls. So if it gives us the option to do it, I think we should have that option.
Jimmy.
And
No, don't put that on the...
Angelo? Can you go over again the section on executive session? Is that any different? I mean, since you're in executive session, you don't know who might be in that room, who might be
Mr.
accessible
Consent, just a quick question for you. I don't mean to interject, but is that going to help you make I'm only asking because it's 7:02. Is that going to help you make a decision? Is that going to help you?
No, we could either go into the meeting, or the meeting could start late. There's no public hearing or anything.
Okay.
Tied into the whole thing, or is that separate?
The legislation says that the board members can be heard, seen, and identified, except in executive session. So if we have somebody that's remote, he or she has to be seen by the public. Now you go into executive session, he or she does not have to be seen. They're exempt from that provision. Now, that could be amplified or tweaked, but that's the general concept that's written right in the legislation. In my policy recommendation always is, when you get something so precise, you should follow it precisely, except where you feel that it should be expanded, and there are feelings where there are other extraordinary circumstances. I mentioned two in my discourse here, which I don't know if you got to state it specifically, but that's what the board has to decide, whether you want to expand those.
Okay, it's 7 o'clock, gentlemen. Ladies, Continue, go to the meeting, come back? Go in the meeting, come back, okay. Anyone else, everyone okay with that?
May I say something?
Sure. Well, we're gonna come back to it, Earl. We're gonna come back.
Okay.
Everyone good with that? Yeah, they wanna get into the meeting and come back. Pardon me? The meeting, it's after 7, so I think we have a ways to go. All right, we're gonna start the meeting, we're gonna come back after the meeting. Okay. Okay, Jimmy. All right, let's please stand for the pledge to the flag and the prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Prayer by Mrs. Dunn, please.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for allowing us to be here today. We are asking for your guidance, your wisdom, and support as we begin our new school year. Fill us with your grace as we make decisions that might affect our students, staff, and community. Remind us that all we do as a board, all that we accomplish, is the greater glory for you and for the service of humanity. Continue to shower all of us with your protection and blessings as we say thank you, Lord, in Jesus' name, amen.
Mr. Bass?
Present.
Mr. Bilson? Here. Mr. Kinsemi? Mr. Capizzi?
Here.
Mrs. Dunn?
Here.
Mr. Cadella?
Here.
Mr. Pareto? Here. Mr. Velardo?
Here.
And Mr. Petrosi.
Here, thank you very much. Okay, who's giving me the feedback? Everybody's off. Clara, shut your mic off. Clara, can you shut your mic off? Thank you, appreciate it. Moving into oral communications, public speaking part of the meeting. How about Mr. Ryan Mang? Would you like to speak, please? Name, address, and who you may represent. 3 minutes, if you would, please. We do turn the mic on if you say good things.
Well, I am just coming from work, so I apologize for my attire, as Mr. Cadella was already joking as I walked in, because I have a t-shirt on. But anyways, I appreciate the time to speak to all you guys tonight on behalf of our new contract that we worked pretty fast to get done between Mr. Laurie and Mrs. Massaro. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have been able to get it done. Some of the things that we addressed real quickly, in under 3 minutes, so I'll go fast. The positive impact that this had on all of our workers, which is almost 280 now. It provided a living wage, which our lower paid people didn't have. People starting at Wegmans / Target, McDonald's, were making more than some people that were here for 15 years. So with the collaborative effort of Mr. Laurie, we came up with making the bottom tier person, no one makes under $17 an hour now. And I think that showed the positive impact. At our last job fair, we had almost 90 people show up, and I believe Ms. Massaro can second on this, that we're hiring 19 people for the kitchen from that job fair. So that wage being $17 an hour really got people to come, and now we're not gonna be shorthanded, which in turn, I shouldn't say this out loud, but it's gonna cut down on overtime, which saves the board money. So that was it's huge. I mean, people inbox me and say, how can I get started? And now that I tell them $17 an hour, it's great. Just a couple small things in the contract. We added 3 new cooks, which allows the kitchens to be open for 12 months, which in our community here, sometimes the meals are the most important thing. So now that's covered on a daily basis. And I can tell you from personal experience, along with Mr. Pareto, we feed the football, soccer, and all the kids out there every day with lunches. So it's a great thing, as you see every day. The kids don't have to scramble to get something to eat. they can go right back to practice. The safety in every building obviously was a huge thing with what's going on. Hopefully that never happens to us, but I think we're still working on it, Mr. Laurie, getting an evolve in every building. So every single person that comes through there now is scanned. And we also got the safety officers a livable wage, which has showed because we'd hired over 10 new people, and the trainings that we're getting them from the hiring of Mr. Del Porto is excellent. I've been at 2 of them. It's really helps them like de-escalate situations, use the evolve. They're gonna do the active shooter drill. Mr. Cadella, I don't know if you know that, but I can tell you from when I was security, we didn't do that. So none of us knew what to do. Now they're gonna know what to do. They have the tools, they have everything to get it done, which obviously puts the parents at ease, which is our number one thing, our safety is for the kids. So those are just a few small things. And I think it was very beneficial for both sides, especially that it went so fast and I didn't have to get yelled at by Mr. Laurie too much. So it was good. But I want to say to all you guys, we truly appreciate everything you do for the community, sometimes putting yourself first, as Mr. Cadella said earlier. Sometimes we have family obligations and those come second, because we care so much about the kids and the school district. So I'm almost at 4 minutes. I'm gonna get in trouble here, so, okay.
Keep up the good time. You could have some more time.
You might redo the contract if you keep it up again. It's 1 month old.
I could go over, the other good 10 things that we got, but I think you guys get the point. And on behalf of the union and our almost 270 employees, honestly, we truly appreciate it, and I think our work ethic has gotten a lot better, and we talk to people that are the few people that are problems before it gets anywhere, and I think Mr. Laurie will tell you that we put out a lot of fires before they even get to his office, which I don't think was done before with the union of past, but we try to not waste much time on people that aren't doing things. We try to take care of it in-house now. So again, I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much, and thank you for allowing me to speak.
So you know, Ryan, you're not getting paid for that 2 minutes overtime. Thank you very much for coming.
If you stick around to the end, I might say one nice thing about you, if you can stay for a few minutes.
Yeah, I can. I just got to go back and lock up.
Yeah, it'd be one nice thing, so it will be worth it.
We really appreciate you coming down.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you.
Okay, that was it for oral communications, written communications. We have a thank you letter from Mrs. Glasser that's sent around. I sent it around. I don't know if everyone saw it. Thank you. We'll pass it around this way. Thank you, Judy. And Judy, our condolences and our apologies that unfortunately we didn't make it because of our retreat. And I just wanted to pass that on to you and your family. Okay. Recommended actions from the superintendent of schools. I'm going to go through these as quick as I can. Anyone that has a question, please do not hesitate to stop me. We are going to start with 401 and 402, which are the minutes of July 7, and an approval of budget transfer number 1. Motion, please. Thank you, Mr. Bilson. Second. Second, Mr. Velardo. Any questions? Call a roll, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed? Hearing none,
Thank you.
accepted.
Appreciate it. 403, approval of the following bids, bid number 5, bid number 6, and RFP number 8. Mr. Bilson? Second, Mr. Pareto. Questions? Call a roll, please.
Mr. Bass?
Yes.
Mr. Bilson? Mr. Kinsemi?
Pass.
Mr. Capizzi?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn? Mr. Kudella?
Yes.
Mr. Preto?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo? And Mr. Petrosi?
Yes.
8 in favor.
Thank you. 404, Treasurer's Report, received and filed. 405, Budget Status Report, received and filed. 406, Personnel Report Certificated, numbers 1 through 14. Motion, Mr. Pareto. Second, Mr. Bilson. Any questions? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bass?
Yes.
Mr. Bilson? Yes. Mr. Kinsemi, will mark him stepped away. Mr. Capizzi?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Cadella?
Yes.
Mr. Pareto?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo? And Mr. Petrosi.
Yes,
Mr. Petrosi, may I make a comment?
you may, of course.
I want to thank the board, first of all, for approving that great job that Ms. Massaro did, but I also want to congratulate all the names on there who will be our teachers this coming year. I have my full confidence in them. I'm congratulating them and thanking them and met with them this morning. I also want to recognize 4 administrators, probably the largest administrative class that we've appointed. We've appointed 4 assistant principals. I want to give you my complete confidence in Ms. Leah Baldessari, the new assistant principal at Cataract, Ms. Val Rotella Safuto, the new assistant principal at Niagara Falls High School, joined by Mr. Nick Ruffalo, the new assistant principal at Niagara Falls High School. They'll be a great team. They're gelling and molding very well already. And Mr. Tuma is in the audience. I want to offer him and his wife my most heartfelt and sincere congratulations and appreciation, and know that he will not disappoint. He will do a tremendous job with the students, staff, and Hyde Park community. So to Mr. Tuma and his wife, I say congratulations.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
I'd just like to add congratulations, Mr. Tuma. Mrs. Tuma, spend the money quickly. Thank you very much. Personnel report, 407, classified, 1 through 12.
Excuse me, Mr. Petrosi.
Do we vote?
Well, I noticed that you voted on items 1 through 14. Is that the entire report, or is there a portion left on which to vote?
I asked Ms. Massaro, 1 through...
That's what I'm asking you. I don't have it in front of me.
No, one.
That's all of it?
I did clarify that, 1 through 14, right, Maria?
Thank you.
That's the whole report.
Carry on.
Got it. Thank you. We did vote, right? You
did.
want to put a vote on that, Jimmy? You were out. Let's just show Jimmy as a yes. 4.07, personnel report classified, 1 through 12, items 1 through 12. Thanks, Mr. Pareto. Second, Mr. Velardo. Questions? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bass?
Yes.
Mr. Bilson? Mr. Kinsemi? Mr. Capizzi?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn? Mr. Cadella?
Yes.
Mr. Pareto?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo? Mr. Petrosi?
Yes.
All in favor?
Thank you. 408 and 409 are the committees from special education and preschool special education. Mr. Kinsemi, Mr. Bilson, any questions? Call the roll, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go through these short-term contracts. There are several. I'm just going to read the names real quick. Any questions, please stop me. We have Rachel Martino, Denise Chapman, Jason Woodcop, Victoria Gagliardo, Uncle G's Ice Cream, Saxman Slim Matthew, Rachel Martino, Dan the Man, Robert Jacobus, Corey Sino and Corey Sino again, E.M. Bystrick, Pride Center, Maria Franzi Gadowski, National Federation for Just Communities, Tim Miller, Crystal Monroe, Shelley Hartzell, Sharon Ray, Christine Faricio, Child Care Clearinghouse, Kelly Janice, Teresa Cummings, Lisa Cox of Buffalo Center, Lisa Galinsky, Jeremiah Masad, Amplify Science Professional Development, NCS Pearson, Teresa Diaz, and Buffalo Combat Fitness. Motion. Mr. Cadella, second by Mr. Capizzi. Any questions on those?
Question.
Sir, go ahead,
Is
Earl.
that Whitcop or Whitlock? Jason Whitcop or Whitlock?
It is Woodcop. W-I-T-T-C-O-P. Pre-K Jamboree Children's Haircuts.
Okay, so, okay.
Whitcop.
Not the sports commentator. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Just wanted to make sure, because that was going to be a hard no.
No problem, sir. Any other questions? Okay, Judy, call the roll.
Mr. Bass?
Yes.
Mr. Bilson? Mr. Kinsemi? Mr. Capizzi?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn? Mr. Cadella?
Yes.
Mr. Pareto?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo? Mr. Petrosi?
Yes.
All in favor?
Thank you. 411, early Head Start and Head Start reports. Mr. Velardo, second Mr. Bilson. Questions? Call the roll, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Okay, new business. 401, acceptance of funds for the Indian Education Grant. So, I'm sorry. Forgive me, I'm sorry. Thank you for the correction. 601, acceptance of funds for the 22-23 Indian Education Grant.
Aye.
Moved by Mr. Cadella was the motion. Second by Mr. Pareto. Questions? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bass?
Yes.
Mr. Bilson? Mr. Kinsemi? Mr. Capizzi?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn? Mr. Cadella?
Yes.
Mr. Pareto?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo? Mr. Petrosi?
Yes.
All in favor?
Thank you. 602, approval of the carryover budget for 21-22 Head Start. Motion by Mr. Bilson. Second by Mr. Kinsemi. Any questions? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bass?
Yes.
Mr. Bilson? Mr. Kinsemi? Mr. Capizzi?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn? Mr. Cadella?
Yes.
Mr. Pareto?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo? Mr. Petrosi?
Yes.
All in favor?
Thank you. We were the 6.03 and 6.04 are the delegate and alternate delegate to the convention. I will be the delegate, and Mr. Kinsemi will be the alternate delegate. Do we have a motion? You, Mr. Bilson. Second, Mr. Pareto. Questions? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bass?
Yes.
Mr. Bilson? Mr. Kinsemi? Mr. Capizzi?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn? Mr. Cadella?
Yes, but I would like to note that even the State School Board Association is doing virtual meetings, and my vote is yes.
Mr. Pareto?
Yeah.
Mr. Velardo? And Mr. Petrosi?
Yes.
All in favor?
Thank you. 6.05, approval of the district comprehensive improvement plan. Mr. Pareto, second by Mr. Kinsemi. Questions? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bass?
Yes.
Mr. Bilson? Mr. Kinsemi? Mr. Capizzi?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn? Mr. Cadella?
Yes.
Mr. Pareto?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo? Mr. Petrosi?
Yes, thank you
All in
very
favor?
much. 6.06 to 6.15, these are various contracts. I'll read them very quickly. Western New York Dyslexia Specialists, the Boys and Girls Club, Niagara University for Adult English as a New Language, TEL Consulting through Family and Community Engagement, and Early College Smart Scholars Grants, Playworks, Booker College Planning, Niagara University for Early College High School, Ron Cunningham Consultants, Buffalo Construction Consultants, and Sealer Engineering. Any questions? Motion, please.
I do. Is this?
Well, let me get the motion in the second, and you got it. Motion by Mr. Pareto, second by Mr. Velardo. Questions, Mr. Capizzi?
This is a vote for all 10 of these issues?
Yes, if you don't want to, if you want to leave one out, I can also pull
Well,
it.
no, I just have a question with some of this.
You may question any one of them.
Is there any, for any particular one, do we have a basis where we're giving certain amounts of money out? Are we comparing them to other districts or other organizations?
Are you asking for a specific item?
Well, just, I don't have my paper in front of me. So 614,
Buffalo is Buffalo Construction.
or I'm sorry, 613. Like, just for an individual, is there a comparative when we start line by line to other districts when we recommend this? That's all I'm asking.
Well, we just had a long, lengthy discussion.
Did I miss that?
You missed that. That job would probably, with benefits, one person would pay over $80,000. Okay, so we're getting $80,000 for the contract, which involves 4 people. There is a wish, or for lack of a better term, after the first quarter, 3 months, to have him come in so we can evaluate or ask questions of what he's doing. There is an evaluation sheet that was passed out to all the board members showing what he does or what he's going to do. And basically, it's also a 30-day out contract.
Yeah, it's more towards the question of where do we get these numbers from? That's all I'm asking. It's not an individual particular job.
No, I understand.
You know what I mean?
Well, the number I quoted you came from Buffalo School District that pays.
And that's okay. When you
Yeah.
send something out to bid, just like myself, Russ, we compare
Sure.
it to
Well,
an
Buffalo,
equal thing.
I just want to clarify, Buffalo does not put it out to bid, they hire their employees. So the comment was made, that one advantage of a independent contractor, if they're employees, after the hours, that now becomes overtime, Saturdays and Sundays, which this particular person works whenever. So that was also something that was put out there. The number came from Buffalo that pays 60 plus bennies. Am I correct, Mark?
Yes.
So you're confident in the research and the
Well, I'm
stats that-
confident, I'm very confident of the dollars and cents. There is question of how effective, and we're going to evaluate the effectiveness. We're going to watch the effectiveness. We're all in the same mindset that kids have to come to school or they can't learn. You know, we're not always, I don't know if we're all in the same mindset how we get there, but I think we all want to be there. So I think monitoring it, if there's a better way, you know, one comment was made, it does, you know, dollars and cents are not everything, and I do agree. It's got to be effective. So saying that, that's where we're at with that one.
Okay, that's fine.
Mr. Consemi.
Have we ever thought about just adding one other person that would just concentrate on absenteeism, since that's the biggest problem that we have? When you say, I mean, early intervention and getting our kids to school, and there's a lot of little kids that aren't coming, correct?
Correct.
So, I mean, if we had somebody that was, I'm sure there's somebody out there that would go to those houses in the morning or make phone calls to them to get the kids up and get them out.
Sure.
I mean, just zero in on, it just kills me. We got to zero in on the absenteeism. I know the truancy is there, and I know the kids are out playing in the street.
I agree.
But if we can't get the little ones in here, we're in trouble.
I agree.
Mr. Lorick, just a comment, and you know where I stand in this. We have social workers.
We do.
That's where they should be.
Okay.
Or, I shouldn't say that. That's not my job. I apologize.
That's all right.
That's a good look of what they should be doing.
It is part of what they're doing. It's not their sole job.
I mean, if they're doing it, that's great. If, you know, maybe that should all be intertwined. Good point, Mr.
Well,
Vincent.
I'm looking at that little apple over there, you know, that little grandma apple over here, and I'm just saying to myself, it's not too hard with the technology we have today to track a kid right away, how many times it's 2 or 3, to get somebody out there. And I don't think Ronnie can do it all. And you know what I mean? I'd rather have Ronnie work on the kids that are discipline problems, the bigger kids, the older kids. I have no problem with that. He's got a great rapport with the community. I think he's well accepted. But I think the young people don't know Ronnie any more than the man in the moon, per se, to make that a difference in their behavior. I'm sorry?
They won't know anybody else either.
Good point.
Well, what do? We just forget about it and walk away? I don't know.
That's not what we meant, but we're just answering your question. I think we're all in agreement it's an issue. We got to fix it. Anybody else? Mr. Laurie?
I will address the social workers and principals, number one, and I'll also look at an employment contract or an employment position for younger people. I won't hire anybody, but I'll present the option.
Sounds good. Okay. Any more questions? Judy, call the roll, please.
Mr. Bass.
Yes.
Mr. Bilson. Mr. Kinsemi. Mr. Capizzi.
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn. Mr. Cadella.
Yes, except for 613, no.
Okay.
They show yes, 1 vote for 613, no.
Noted.
Got it. Noted.
Mr. Pareto.
Yes.
Mr. Velardo. And Mr. Petrosi.
Yes.
Motion's passed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Review and proposed policies. I don't think we have any policies on to review. Mr. Laurie, you're up.
Thank you very much. I'll take him out of his misery. Thank you, Mr. Mang, for your comments. First of all, this is going to be kind of unexpected for you because I'm not one to compliment you, but I really want to. I appreciate you being here in front of the board, and I also appreciate your leadership. To be the president of a union is not an easy job. You represent 280 employees that are ours together, and that often represents 280 different views. And the challenge that you have is that you have such a diverse union because you go from cafeteria workers to groundskeepers to nurses to secretaries. So you're juggling many different titles, which makes your job of 280 even more difficult. For a young first-year, second-year union rep, the knowledge that you've gained, the ability to fairly negotiate and understand issues is quite remarkable. I want to give you your due credit seriously. Most importantly, what you said at the end is what has impressed me, and it really is your relationship mainly with Ms. Massaro that you have to head off problems before they become issues. You bring them to us, you do it in a civil, organized manner, and you always bring a couple of solutions. And all of those solutions are usually within the realm of acceptability. Your leadership is noted, your leadership is appreciated by me, and I'm glad that you came to the board meeting to allow me to share sincere comments. I've watched you grow from a safety officer, a young, novice, unknowing safety officer, to the president of CSEA Union, to a fine employee too. I think let's not lose the fact that Mr. Mang also has a full-time job. And I think I was talking to a board member earlier this evening, and he was attesting to the skill level of the crew that you're on and all of the people you represent. You're right. I've told this board this. The level of professionalism in that union has been raised to a different level. And it's because, certainly because of the board and Maria and the hiring, and I can't leave Earl out because he's been a big part of it. But your professionalism is noted, appreciated, and I hope you just treat me a little easier in the next round of negotiations. But congratulations and thank you. You represent your 280 members well, and I appreciate how fair you are with administration. It's professional and not adversarial, but we do disagree, and we agree to disagree professionally, so thank you. I want to tell you, board members in the community, we are ready to open schools. That is attributable to your administrators and to the team that is to my left. From Rick's work on curriculum and instruction and everything that he does to get teaching and learning ready, there's none better. Earl has done a remarkable job with the buildings. They are in good shape. I don't think we're going to be missing a beat by next week, right down to the last waxing of the floor. He got a lot of big jobs done this summer, and his team, again, our team, did a great job. Finances are always perfect, so we don't have to worry about that. And I can't say too many more good things about Maria, or she'll want another raise. So we'll leave it at that. But we're ready, community. We're ready to go with school. I really feel that this is going to be just a fantastic year. Our COVID protocols are very simple. They're very common sense. If you're sick, you stay home. You go to your doctor, and you have courtesy for others. Very simple. If you're not feeling well, you stay home, and you have courtesy for others. If you choose, and it's only your choice, to wear a mask, we will support you. We will not comment on that. That is certainly your right, and you should be able to do that without any question. I am completely convinced that we're ready with our COVID protocols. Don't forget, Tuesday is the bond naming ceremony, 4 p.m. I want to make a mention, without getting into too much detail, of the safety and security, but Mr. Ming did reference this when he spoke. In addition to what he said about the Evolve coming into our elementary schools, that should be here hopefully by the end of September, hopefully. 6 to 8 week lead time on those devices. We'll have more police at the, for traffic. We have more safety officers. Niagara Falls High School has 16 uniformed safety officers, 16, along with 2 school resource officers. Gaskill and LaSalle now have 3 uniformed safety officers and 1 police officer. We're in good shape there. Ray has added more cameras. We have speed traffic signs that we own and purchase to put around schools. We are piloting the Raptor license system. And the Crime Analysis Center is monitoring closely all of the social media posts. And as you know, there is a lot of bullying that goes on and threats around social media. So through the work of Chief Del Porto, we have that going, as well as many other things that we'll be talking to you about in the near future. Thank you to all who have been involved in new staff orientation and training. I do have one bit of disturbing news for you, and I'm watching my phone right now. I had the opportunity to attend our athletic practices today. Our athletes look really good out there, very organized, very well prepared. I was at football, soccer, and cross country today. Obviously, I didn't run with the cross country kids. That would have been detrimental to everyone. The disturbing piece of information is that there is an impending strike with the officials, the game officials. They are in a contract negotiation. It looks like it's come to, I think you'd call it an impasse with Section 6. The latest, and I was on my phone from Joe Contento, that's what I was using this for. He's concerned they have until August 31st to settle this impending impasse and possible strike by the officials. And we're watching it very closely. Our first contest is September 3rd. So I'll keep you posted, but it's getting to be quite a hot issue. And we cannot afford to have interscholastic sports postponed. We have 1,800 students in sports throughout the course of the whole year. We can't have that. We can't have that. They've got to settle this. Other than that, I want to thank the board for your continued support, for your continued hard work, and I know the staff feels very, very supported by you as well as I do. Couldn't ask for a better board. So to the person, thank you very much. Mr. Petrozzi, that's all I have for this evening.
Mr. Laurie, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea what the attendance might be for Niagara Street? For the dedication?
We've opened it to the public, as many as the theater can hold.
Anybody keeping track of it at all?
We'll keep track as they come in. Pardon me? We'll keep track as they come in.
And everybody's going to Antonio's afterwards?
No. Board members and committee.
Oh, I thought it was everybody.
Thank you. I am. Thank you very much.
Okay, around the horn. Mr. Villar.
No, I just want to thank the staff for their hard work to get school up and running, and I hope we'll have a very successful school year. That's it.
We've come a long way through COVID, through the pandemic, and I think this is probably just as exciting for the teachers, the administration, everybody involved, the children, the families. This is going to be a great year. I feel very confident about that. Very confident, Mr. Laurie, in yourself and your team. And I think we should all be very happy and excited that the kids are going to be going back to school this year for what I believe will be probably the first true normal year since we entered the pandemic. So I think we all did a great job, the entire district, getting prepared for this day, and it's exciting. And congratulations to Maria and her team and all the new employees that we have. and to the 4 new administrators. And, congratulations. And Mr. Tuma, thanks for coming tonight. We appreciate it. And congratulations again. Looking forward to a new year.
Mr. Kinsemi.
I would be lax if I didn't tell you that I've heard umpteen people and teachers walking to our school who came back saying they look better than they've ever looked before, and they were so clean, they were happy to go back. So, I mean, the morale and, I know Mark picks on you, and everybody else does too, but the effort that this school district has made, I think, is outstanding. And thank you. I thank you from the bottom of my heart, because it's so nice to have the teachers excited about going back and the building's all cleaned and everything. Thank you. I'm excited. I think it's going to be a great year. I'm excited for our teachers. I'm excited for our kids. I just hope all goes well. Pray to God for that. Mr. Laurie, thank you for you again representing the community and going out there on your auctioneer temptation, I guess. It's an attempt anyway. It was great. Mr. Pareto, thank you for joining us. I don't know what to say. We're on our way. We're on our way. Let's pray it goes well for us.
Thank you, Jim. Clara. Thank you. Paul.
Nothing else to add, thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Mike?
Me either. I just got here, but I just want to say congratulations to Mang's department and the folks, the administrators that got promoted. Good job, Mark, and good job on the opening.
Mr. Bass, Earl.
Hello, yes, I want to say thank you to Mark and our staff for getting everything prepared for the upcoming school year. Thank you for working hard throughout the summer. I will say that I have to do some personal reflection on a particular topic to see, make sure that I move accordingly, proceeding forward. Have some decisions to make, and I'll be reflecting on that. But thank you to everyone, and looking forward to another great year.
Thank you, Earl. Tony.
Okay. First, I'd like to congratulate Mr. Mang and his bargaining unit, good, dedicated workers. Congratulations on your new contract, and we're happy to do it for you. We know what it means for us and to you folks. Also happy we passed that PLA agreement again for through Buffalo Construction. Again, like I said earlier, those are great jobs, good paying jobs, and and they're all local workers. All of our new employees that are coming into this district for the first time. By the way, Maria, do we have any idea, like a rough number of new teachers we're bringing in to the district offhand, just off the top of your head?
Well, it's nice that you asked. I did some rough numbers. I think we're bringing in brand new. We're bringing in about 46, but we actually hired about 130 NFT members when you count the regular substitutes, the TAs, the PSAs, all of the people that we've hired since April is actually about 130, but I think brand new is that particular number.
Okay, that's excellent. I mean, we're bringing folks in here. They're moving into the city or they're already here. One of the two. I'm not getting into that issue, but what I'm getting at is we're delivering good paying jobs, and we are, folks, we are board members. We are an economic engine, all right? We are driving jobs. We are hiring all diversity as much as we can. We're finding them, right? We're looking. And that should be a compliment on the fine job that you and your staff are doing to put all this massive amounts of personnel together. And again, you and your staff should be thanked and congratulated. Let's see here. And that is about it, gang. Well, welcome for the school year. Hopefully I got refs. Go Wolverines.
Thank you. I think we had everyone. I'm going to be very, very brief. Thank you, staff, Rhea, everyone. I don't want to leave anyone out. Mark, everyone. Thank you, each and every one of you. Ryan, thank you for those kind words. I'll give you 5 minutes anytime. Andy, congratulations. Best of luck. Mrs. Tuma, thank you for letting him to us. We appreciate it very much. Unfortunately, I have the unhappy duty of reading names of who are no longer with us. We are not going to adjourn yet, but I'm going to read the names while everybody is here, and then we're going to go back to discussing virtual meetings. But we will adjourn later in the memory of the following. Dr. Nicholas Carasella, one of the benefactors of the Niagara Falls Education and Foundation. He's also an alumni of Niagara Falls High School. Emily Kuiper, student at Niagara Falls High School with a tragedy. Maureen Fitzpatrick, sister of Eileen Burkett. Melvin Cunningham, brother of Ron Cunningham. Janet Dunstein, Niagara Falls High School Drama Club past member. Charles Hine, father of District Clerk, and ours truly, Judy Glasser. Ann Louise Krzmarek, am I saying that right? Kamarzik, I tried. And that is the aunt of our Rebecca Holliday and David Spacone, nephew of Mary Beth Spacone. We will adjourn in the memory of those fine people. Saying that, we'll move back. We're going to go back to virtual meetings. Looking for direction.
What do you need to move forward with a vote?
So
What do we need to do to move forward with a vote?
What do we need?
Yeah.
Just direction. We don't need a vote.
Okay.
You're
Yeah,
yes.
I'm for it, 100%.
Go ahead.
For the option, absolutely to have.
Okay.
Yes.
Mike? Okay, let me ask the question. Let me stop so I can do this maybe once. Move ahead with the items that are suggested in the law. Are we going to add anything to them or not take any away? Angelo, those suggestions by the law, can you go over them again very quickly?
Due to extraordinary circumstances which include disability, illness, caregiving responsibilities, or any other significant or unexpected factor or event which precludes the members' physical attendance at each meeting.
Okay, so could I ask for direction on, first of all, anyone want to talk about adding anything?
I would venture to add that public servants serving in a public safety position are oftentimes asked to work extraordinary hours. So the ability to have a virtual option gives us, myself and Earl, the chance to participate in the meetings and voice our concerns on behalf of our constituents, which I feel is important.
Okay, you're saying extenuating hours or work hours? Extenuating, like you get called in tonight?
Yeah, I mean, extenuating, like you get held over, or there's a fire, or we're forced overtime, or there's a burglary, or a homicide. I mean, I could go through a list of things, but it's gonna happen.
I just have one question. I brought the same thing up to Earl about it. I don't know. If you're called in an extra duty, you mentioned burglaries, robberies, murders, whatever, how are you going to participate in the meeting if you're doing your job?
If I just work 16
I
or
can see
17
how, wait, let me finish. I
like
can
I'm
see how
saying.
Earl can do his if he's at the firehouse. I just want to know how you're going to do yours, that's all. And I'm not picking on you, I'm just curious, that's all.
I'm actually shocked that you're fighting me on this, Nick, number one.
Wait,
Number
first of
two,
all,
I'm very shocked.
I'm not fighting you, I'm just asking a question, how are you going to do it, that's all. I'm not against
I guess
you.
okay,
No,
I'll take
you
it
don't
back.
even know
I
I'm
guess
gonna
the point
vote.
I'm trying to make is if I just worked for 16 or 17 hours, to come here and sit for a meeting for 4 hours could be extenuating on my health and well-being. So that's the point I'm trying to make. I'm not saying I'm going to take the meeting from a homicide scene.
Well, that's what you're saying, it's extenuating services.
I'm sorry I didn't explain that.
I'm confused. Okay, I think what you're saying, I think, maybe we're saying, you're saying at work, it's, you can't really do your, as you said, I don't want to put words in your mouth. It's very hard to do your job and do a meeting. Is that what you're saying?
Well, the way Paul was saying it, yeah.
Well, I understand what he's saying, you know.
If you're held over for overtime because you're investigating a crime, how are you gonna attend a meeting? Or if you're fighting a fire, how are you gonna attend? I'm just bringing it up, that's all.
Well, let's go around and see what everyone, then we'll have some direction and we'll, anyone else have an opinion? Mike?
Well, I think within reason, it's definitely a necessary tool. I mean, to counter what some of the things that Nick said.
Microphone, Mike, please.
To counter, piggyback off of some of the things that Nick said, I mean, I got here late. I was swamped. I mean, I probably shouldn't have left, but, you know, I have a responsibility where I have to do it. But if I have the option once in a while to do a virtual one, I could run in the back and do it for 10, 20 minutes, rather than a 2-hour gig of driving here, changing, going back. So I do think that on occasion, it is a valuable tool. I mean, do I think that we should be here the majority of times? Yeah, but if things do happen, like for me, for instance, tonight, where that something sporadically happens where I have a chance to join in for 20 minutes and not make a 2-hour deal of it, once in a while, it is okay. That's just my 2 cents with it.
Yeah. Mike, just to add to that, I missed something when I did my little say. Mike, congratulations. Mike Capizzi passed his Series 7 today.
Yes.
Congratulations. I know you worked hard.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Mike, that goes back to, and I'm going to, I don't want to put anything until we go around the table. Anybody else? Clara, thank you.
I'm going to stick to how I feel. I don't think it
You always
should be. I don't think it should be done because it's not fair to the people who run. You know the responsibility of any board or any committee that you run for. You have a responsibility to the public, to the people who voted for you, and you cannot effectively participate or represent those people if you're constantly not at meetings. I take offense to it, to the people who run for offices, because they know the responsibility of that office. And if you can't honor those responsibilities, don't run. I think it's leaving room, opening the door for people who just want to be on a board and say, I'm going to run, and then I don't have to show up for the meetings. It's not fair to people who choose to run for any public office. And when we interviewed people who we were going to appoint for the board, the #1 question was, would you be able to attend meetings? And we had a very big discussion when there were certain people who, wasn't in agreement with Earl Bass not coming to the meetings. And at that time, I think everybody made it clear that it was important for people to show up at the meetings. So no, I am not in agreement with us doing that, because it is a slap in the face for people who run for office to make the commitment to the public and to that board and office or committee that they're running for. I don't think it's fair.
Okay, thank you, Clara. Anyone else? Okay.
I'd like to speak.
Of course, Earl.
For one, I've used these virtual meetings.
Earl,
and
can you
being able
speak,
to be
Earl?
remote.
Earl, can you speak a
you
little
hear me?
louder?
Hold on just a second. I'll make sure that you can hear me. Hear me? Okay. I've used these meetings remotely to be able to serve as a board member. I don't think that anything that I've done has
Can't hear him.
taken away from my ability to be an effective board member. I think I have a pretty good. I think I'm pretty good at, very much so in touch with our community. Clearly respected by our community because they voted for me, not once but twice. So to say that it's a slap in the face, I take offense to that. I have worked very hard. I'm currently working for a department that has been understaffed for 3 years, and I am forced between choosing between serving on this board and causing overtime in a financially strapped city. I think that's unreasonable, especially when I don't do it all the time. And if it comes down to it, I will resign. I will say that publicly. I will say it now because I will not disrespect the board. I will not disrespect the seat, and I will not disrespect my constituents. If that is the will of the board, I will step down at the end of the year. And that's all I'm going to say.
Okay, anybody else? Tony?
I'll make a comment. I think I'm going to go with what Mr. Capizzi had brought up. If the technology is there, and it's possible, sometimes through no fault of our own, we can't make a board meeting. I just don't want to see it taken advantage of. You are elected, and I also agree with some things that other board members have said. You should be here, but extenuating circumstances, and that's kind of a term, right, Ange? That's kind of an extenuating type circumstances. I think you should do your best to come as many board meetings as you can. If the technology allows it and it's legal, we should be able to use the technology. But we should also be able to come to a majority of the board meetings, especially the voting meetings. But if it's possible to do it remotely, I don't have a problem with it as long as it's not taken advantage of. You know what I mean? Where it's all the time. You know what I mean? I don't think that's right. That's just my feeling towards it. But I am for it to a reasonable group of extenuating circumstances. Thank you.
Well, I think that the definition of extenuating circumstances is very interesting. Now, I happen to agree with Mike. I happen to agree with Paul. You know, if you're working all day and all night, I wouldn't want you to drive here. I do have an issue. I do have an issue if somebody's paying you and doesn't know you're on a phone call. That bothers me. Whether it's the city, whether it's one of my employees, I'm sure Mike would not want to hit one of his people in the back on the phone for 4 hours. I think that's an issue. Now, once in a while, whatever the case may be, I think this is a very difficult issue, but I need some direction. I think if I'm hearing, if I can be, please direct here. I think there's an interest in video conferencing. Am I yes or no's? You guys got to give me a direction. If it's no, if it's yes.
Russell, can I talk?
Yeah, well, I'm trying to take it apart, Mike. If there's an interest in video conferencing, then the next would be, well, what are the circumstances?
Well, I think I missed one meeting in a year, okay? So I'm just opening this up, that we shouldn't shut the door and immediately say no in an ever-changing world. And things are happening and changing fast. You're a businessman. You're a very smart businessman. How many times have emergencies happen? If your boiler blows up, that's going to come first before...
Mike, I've been here for 23 years.
And you haven't missed.
And I don't think I missed a meeting.
But let's say that something...
Including the work sessions. Including the...
And that's to be commended.
Maybe one, or maybe two. You know, but I'm not saying everyone's me, because along with those responsibilities, I have flexibility. So I am blessed to have that flexibility.
You, Jimmy, and Nick are exceptions to the rule. You lead the country in not missing a meeting over 25 years. I understand that. All I'm saying is that the board should be open to an ever-changing world. And I don't intend to miss any. I'm just saying things may happen, and we shouldn't shun a board member.
That's where I was going, is I do support your position.
I agree
but I don't support the position that your employee would not, you would not know your employee's on a meeting for 4 hours. I don't support that.
Risk reward. You're the boss, you take the highs, you take the lows. When you're working for somebody, it's a different deal.
Well, that's my point. You support, you're supporting, my position is, if your employer knows and he gives you permission to be on, that's fine with me. I'm okay with that. But I don't think employers should be, we're obligating employers for people to be on for half of a day. I just don't believe that. But anyway, go ahead, Nick, where do you stand?
Oh, you talked about attending meetings. And when I was on the board, I worked for about 10 years before I retired, and I was on the board. And I had people work for me coming on. And I worked a lot of hours, and you know how the fire department works. And I didn't miss me. I had people work for me, and I attended meetings. There's all kinds of options. Are things changing? Yeah. And I wouldn't be, I don't want to use virtual meetings as a substitute for not attending when you have the chance to say, well, you know what? Well, I worked hard today, and I think I'm going to stay home. I'm not that liberal with that, you know, because everybody here works hard. No, or used to anyway. I know we're retired now, but everybody worked hard. And I put my family aside. To fulfill my obligations, not only at work, but on the board. And that's a choice, like Claire says, you have to make. Are things changing? Yeah, and I think I would vote for the virtual meetings, but with very, very limited reasons. As it's now, yeah, for extreme circumstances. And you know, I mean, I don't know. I'd have to. We need more discussion. We can't do it in 5 minutes. So, but I would be willing to look into it. But that's all.
You got to remember too, like, I don't know if anybody else in this room, but we have to bid on jobs every year. There's a chance that if I work days one year, and I might get bumped to afternoons the next. So that's an extenuating circumstance. And I'm not saying it's not worthy, the board's not worthy to use a day off on, but circumstances change. And it's not gonna be every month where a meeting's missed, but it could be every so often. As long as we leave the window open for the possibility for somebody to still attend the meeting, fulfill their duties virtually, which is now the 21st century way of doing things, then that's all I'm asking.
That goes back to my point. I have no problem with that as long as the boss knows. If the boss says fine, I give it, you know, I could give that as an extenuant. Rob, you done, Nick? Well, I'm just trying to get some feel.
I'd like to hear from the president. I'd like to hear your stance on it.
My stance?
Yeah.
My stance first out of the gate was no way, no how. I understand the positions, and I will go with extenuating circumstances. I will not support at work unless the employer knows it is an extenuating circumstance, not every week. I think you lose something. We just lost, when Earl was speaking, we heard half of it, we didn't hear the other half. That's some of the things you lose. I think it must be video, and by the law, it has to be video. Phone calls don't work. It's not acceptable. I'm willing to take Mike's advice that is, you know, this is the 21st century and extenuating circumstances, and I do support what Clara says. So I'm going to meet halfway in the middle. That's the way I feel. Sir, pardon me? Well, I realize, I'm blessed with flexibility. Also, and also I've got all kinds of responsibility. I realize other people don't have the flexibility because that's their job, but I also do. I'm not going to obligate my personal vote an employer for a half a day's salary when they're on a meeting. I just will not do that. Okay, Rob, now that you got it out of me, you're up. We don't have to make a decision. We can just
look, it's an interesting conversation that we've already started before this meeting. majority of us were there for the conversation and some of us weren't, right? So we're extending it here. So it's just, we've already talked about a lot of these points. You know, I'm not telling you what my stance is. I'm going to give you some things I'm thinking about and some things that interest me that I think I still need clarity on, right? So the first thing is, you know, if we're board members for the school board, if we're board members for a planning board, you know, it doesn't matter. We're volunteers for the community. If I have to work, I don't have to come to the board meeting. If I'm sick, I don't have to come to the board meeting. If I have if my wife's pregnant, as Angelo gave as an example, I don't have to come to the board meeting. And the way that Angelo stated we would start considering extenuating circumstances, one of those things was when we have a voting meeting, we need a quorum, correct? So we have to be here. Right, but we have to be here. And to be completely honest with you, you know, I think for voting meetings, we should try our best to be here. And if we can't, you know, I don't know that, you know, I don't know if, you know, we should be in a remote environment for voting. Can you vote? I don't know the answer. When I say I don't know, I'm asking the answer. Like, if somebody was remote for a voting meeting, would they still be able to vote? Yes. Okay. I mean, look, it's like, I guess really for me, Russ, and for the board, it comes down to, I'm not a fan of this is a whole new, it's 2022, 2023, we have remote. My company's remote. I'm on many, I work with many major corporations that are remote or going back from remote. There's positives, but there are a lot more negatives to remote than there are positives. And way too many for me to get into here. You can do your own research, but I'm in the remote world every single day. And there are advantages to being in person, just like there are advantages to every single one of our teachers has to come to school and teach in person. Our students have to come to school and be in school in person. You know, for a reason. You in certain situations get more accomplished in an in-person setting than remote. But ultimately what it comes down to is the person. You know, and it's Claire's point, but it's also Paul's point. If we have virtual, the person that's virtual is going to determine whether or not they're getting anything out of the meeting. If they're participating, if they're paying attention, if they're listening, I can't police that. If we have a board member that's on remote and they're fully vested for 4 hours, great. I don't know if they are or not. If that's their position to be fully vested, you know, I think we hope, right? We can hope that they are, but when we're here, right, I know if Mike's paying attention. I know if Nick's paying attention. I'm sitting next to him, right? You know, I know how many times I go to the bathroom or Nick goes to the bathroom, or, you know, we're here and we're invested in the conversation. I can't tell you if you're invested in the conversation if you're at home. I don't know what's going on. So for me, I just think there's a lot of variables, but it comes down to the person, and that's where this topic gets really touchy, because, you know, we have a situation where we have board members currently. We talked about this, right? We have board members that are on this board for a reason, because the community gave them an opportunity, right? And they've proved themselves. So we unfortunately have to put names to faces, right? Or names to how this will impact people, which is a bummer. But for me, it doesn't matter. I'm taking the names out of it. And personally, I think we'll accomplish more if we're in person. I just do. And because I know for a fact in my business, because we talk about our businesses and our background and where we come from, you get more accomplished in person. It's just a fact, in my personal opinion. You're putting a lot of trust in people if they're remote, especially if you cannot see them. And I'm just not, and I just believe that if you are working, you cannot be focused on a meeting. And if you're in a meeting virtually, you cannot be focused on work. And that's where I also have an issue. Like if I'm working, I cannot be on a remote call. But I'm also fortunate that I work until 5 o'clock. I'm not working it, right? So it's a tough situation, right? I don't have to work during meetings, but I do have 5 kids at home, and I have a wife that works all day, and I work all day, and I come here, and I also coach football for NFCSD. You know, there's a lot of things that I do that are tiring, but I am not a public servant, and I don't have any idea what it's like to be a police officer, Paul, so I give you all the credit in the world, man, because I'm not out there doing it. And Earl, appreciate you, my friend. I have no idea what it's like to be a firefighter. I cannot comment on what that's like. So I just think it's going to come down to the person, and this is just my comments. I just have comments. I'm just things I'm thinking about.
Okay. Where does that leave us? Put it on the agenda? Don't put it on the agenda? Got to have direction here. If we do nothing, it goes away. That's the way I interpret it. Mr. Massaro, am I correct? Correct. If we do nothing, it goes away. You do not have to have the ability for video. Right, so if we do nothing, it goes away. If we
What do you mean it goes away? The idea,
the video conferencing
goes away, not the vote. The concept
video and phone
away.
goes away.
Okay, if we do nothing.
If we do nothing. So doing nothing means no. If we, no, we can't, the way I understand it, we can't continue doing it. Yeah, so in other words, if we do nothing as of, I think the next meeting, we would lose remote, the term remote. Going forward, there is no phone, must be video. So there will be no phone in anymore. That does not count as attendance. You have to be video present. Go ahead. If we choose to pass this.
Now, if we choose to do this, we have to do a resolution, public hearing, and the whole 9 yards, right? And
Actually, the public hearing would come before the resolution. That was my point in getting direction. Correct, but the public hearing has to come before we vote. And I didn't want to go through all of that if there's not an appetite to pass it. If there's an appetite to pass it, then we'll do what we got to do. Paul was first.
So correct me if I'm wrong here, but there's a second aspect of this, and that's the community's ability to video, watch, call in, write comments. So it's not just board members, it's also, we're also shutting out the community if we vote, if we don't vote.
That's right, and unlike what's been happening here, it's going to be like a Zoom call. You're going to have to see the party. So if the party's working, he's got to be right in front of that camera, or whatever it is, during the period of the meeting itself. And the public has to be able to participate live. And you say that that can take place at this location. Normally that location would be right here. The one thing, if I may, Mr. President, this is not something just a semantics. It can be a very serious thing, and if Bob was speaking, it brought to mind. I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
We can't hear you, Angelo. Microphone.
I was saying, when Bob was speaking, it came to mind. What is our concern as attorneys? We have 5 members here that attend, You have a legal meeting, and 4 are remote video conferencing. And there's a vote on something of which 3 of those present at this meeting do not vote, but a passage, say, of the budget. And one of those who are remote is there because he doesn't want to be there because he was, I'm being a little facetious, golfing. That's challengeable. If you were to write something in the law, it can be challengeable, and it can then affect your votes on some very serious issues. So it's not something that is just taking advantage, as we say, of the technology and the nicety of having the ability to do it. You also have to remember that it has to be significant or unexpected. And whatever you do as lawyers, I want you, and so does Jim, wants you to be able to allow us to qualify it under those 2 circumstances. Is it unexpected? Okay, and is it significant? Playing golf, my friend here, Jimmy, plays golf. That's not significant, okay? I'm being a little, but I don't want it such that it could be challenged and not defensible. Thanks, Mr.
Angelo,
President.
something was said, I don't know who said it. If we decide video conferencing, is the public able to video conference in?
The public would be able to participate in the video conferencing at a place. Right.
Okay. If we're video conferencing and we allow video conferencing, they can't come in and video to speak to us during the public session, can they?
They could speak as they do now in a public session.
Here?
Yes.
They can't call in?
Not only here, if you want to designate somewhere else.
No, but what I'm saying is
right.
it's not from their house or from their
No,
car?
not to my knowledge,
Okay, I
no.
just want to make sure we clarify that.
Right.
Right, because we're deciding to be a video conferenced meeting, that them being in attendance here, they're technically a part of that
Of the video, right.
conference.
Or if you wanted to, you can have a location at City Hall where if you want to go down, you could video conference the meeting. Yeah, I forget where it was. Once we set up computers in schools. Do you remember that, Mark? On that. And if you wanted to participate, you went to the school.
Right.
But that could be done here, but it's a waste of time. You would leave it here.
Tony?
Okay, my comments and questions are more towards the technology aspect. Since they have to be video, if we do agree this, since they have to be video, then these board members, or us as being board members, need the proper equipment. A cell phone may not be good enough to do what we need to do. So then we have to make arrangements through you or through the staff. Stop me if I'm, out of touch here. So then we have to make certain arrangements to have this technology so it works.
That's
so
correct.
that we can, behind us is a member and it can't make it.
Just, Tony, to your point, and I'll let Ray answer this, because he approached me just about a week or 2 ago. He is preparing new computers for you, is that correct? You want to tell him what you're preparing, Ray?
Yeah, I have actually 2 recommendations. The first would be the entrance into the video conference itself would be credentialed through your district email, your district Office 365 license, because that opens up the appropriate licenses. If you don't come in that manner, you're coming in as a guest and you're somewhat limited, like we saw today, with options you could have. So that's the first piece. The second piece is you would use a district laptop that's configured just like the other 13,000 district laptops and configured for a better means of entrance and use of video conferencing. So I believe those 2 would help.
So then we would have to we would then have to make arrangements.
You have those computers ready to go, Ray?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be a loaner, it could be on request, we have options.
Because, just like a few minutes ago, we can only hear half the conversation, so, yeah.
And that
When you're
would show,
fully-
Ray, that would show the party on the screen at this room, is what you're saying.
Yeah, instead of a big E.
Right, it would show it's like, in my mind, a Zoom call, or a Zoom meeting that we've all been holding the last couple of years.
And by gaining entrance in a credentialed manner through Teams, more options for Mr. Bass to display his picture, his voice, and more options. The second piece would be the laptop, which is configured in a particular
Hey, there he
manner.
is. Hey, Earl, there he is.
I know that face.
Okay.
Hey, Ray, Ray, could we also put a separate screen where the whole meeting, you can see the virtual attendees? Because, you know, like Earl's on now, right? Like, could he be up the whole time and we're not jumping from a presentation to the virtual attendance, a presentation to
He
the
has
virtual
be-
attendance?
They do have to be on all the time.
They have to be on the whole
That's
time.
right. He'd be participating just as he is there now, participating.
No, but
in-
what I'm saying is, so if Rick comes up and does a presentation, we're no longer going to see Earl.
He has to be present at all times.
When you're speaking, but everybody you can see on that screen.
He,
If Earl comes up with a, or Earl or Rick comes up with a PowerPoint, we won't be able to see a PowerPoint then, is that correct?
No, you can't, like we do a lot in court with Microsoft Teams, and it's amazing what you have. You have all the lawyers, you have the judges, and then you put exhibits on the screen, we're all seeing each other. It's very interactive, that works well.
Yeah, and that's what we're using.
That's what you do. Right.
So I've had trials with a judge in Pittsburgh and a witness in Buffalo, and a lawyer in New York City.
We have to play with options.
It's all seamless.
Yeah, there's lots of options. We use 365 Teams. There's templates that we can use based on presentations, so it'd be a matter of just finding the appropriate template that would
To
satisfy what we
answer
need.
somebody's question, Rick would make his
Can you see me
presentation.
now? Because my
Rick would
camera's
make
off.
his presentation, and you see both of them on the screen.
Yeah.
Or split screens.
It might be where it's layered, like it's down below where you see this.
Right.
There's definitely options.
Yeah.
Certainly we could find a strategy to pull it off.
okay.
My decision is not based on Earl and Paul.
No, I know that.
My decision is based on future people who are going to run for this board. You know, before I joined this, ran for this board, I took it seriously and I didn't run because I couldn't do it. I had an emergency at home tonight, but I made arrangements for that emergency to be taken care of, because to me, being here is important. We had an example with the budget. When we had to sign something, Earl and Paul wasn't here. So whatever their decision was, it didn't count because they couldn't sign it. So I have nothing against Earl. I have nothing against Paul. We have to think about people coming in this board. You don't want a board. For how many years this board has been a board? Have you ever had this issue? And you don't want to start having this issue now, because the school board is important. It's an important board. I know for a fact other committees, other boards, particularly boards at City Hall, people have not shown up for the meetings. They got kicked off. So it has nothing to do with those two people. It's people coming in down the road. Everybody who works would not have an opportunity to sit at a job and be at a remote meeting. You know, so you have to think of the future. It's not just these two people.
Okay. It's only for a year, Paul.
It's, yeah,
It's
it's
got to be,
2024.
it's got
Right.
to be re-upped every year. Okay, direction from my colleagues.
Second of all, so I couldn't hear you, but thirdly, Jim, Mr. Rossetti, the program we had at the college, that's exactly what they're talking about, correct?
Yeah, that's a good one, not a great one, that's a good one.
Okay, I mean, I can share this with you. Our meetings that were held, every single person was on, their face was on, we could see them. When we spoke, we got the big picture. When the other person spoke, they got the big picture, so you knew who was speaking. And it worked out beautifully. The technology is there. We just don't have it yet. But the technology is there.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, direction.
I move we table it.
You move to what? Well, we're not voting. You want, we're exploring. If there's no direction tonight, we'll leave it and discuss it the next meeting. I'm just,
I'll speak real,
We started this discussion last year when people were concerned about Earl not coming to the meeting.
well, correct, but now we have to act on it.
okay,
you know. We could just bring it up next month. I'm not trying to force it.
I would like to explore the video aspect. Look into it, yes.
You'd like to explore
Yes.
the video.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I agree with Jimmy. Let's,
Okay, and the
look into it.
extenuating circumstances? Are we gonna change the extenuating circumstances? Okay, let's go through first. Video conferencing, who wants to explore it?
Yes.
Yes, yes,
Yes.
yes. Nick, video conferencing, do you wish to explore it? Okay.
Okay.
I think that's more than five.
Earl,
Did I count five? One,
did he-
two,
did he
Earl,
raise his
Earl, you want to explore video conferencing, Earl?
Did you say would I like to explore video conferencing?
Yes, I'm asking if you want to explore video conferencing. I'm assuming yes.
Yes, can you
Okay.
see me now? Because my camera is on.
Oh, we see
No,
it.
we're just asking to go, we want to take, I'm asking to go to the next step, and I'm assuming you're a yes.
No, I'm saying yes, but I'm asking, can you see me now? Because
Yes.
my camera is on.
We can see you now, correct.
Okay.
Okay. So I think I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, anyway. Okay, explore. So the next step would be, no, I counted 6. There's how many of us here? 3, 6, 8. And you got 6 yays, Earl's 7, and 2 nays. So there's direction for me to go forward. Next thing for me to do, are we looking at changing any of those parameters that the law says? Or are we gonna follow Angelo's? Well, you can't wait till you see it, because we gotta prepare the resolution, what you tell me. Technical stuff's got nothing to do with it. You tell me video conferencing, you got video conferencing to explore, doing it, we know we can do it, the technology is there. The question would be, Angelo, direction, prepare a resolution as the law is written.
Well, if I may suggest on that, is there some areas which you're suggesting that you want to expand and then direct the attorneys through the superintendent to give you some wording in that section? Concurrent with that, we will be preparing a draft resolution through the clerk's office that'll be ready to just insert that direction as to what is eligible.
No, I think, Angelo, the word expand video, I think the terminology I was proposing was to allow for video conferencing as the law is written, not to
Right.
expand the parameters.
Okay, well, if that's the case, then we could do the resolution right off.
Okay.
And we
if
take the
somebody
wording
wishes-
right from what I read.
If somebody wishes to expand the parameters,
Right.
then they can make an amendment to the resolution, and we will vote on that.
That's one approach, yes.
Okay, let's do it as written, and then you could advise, my question to you will be, so there's no surprises, what does the law say? You're writing a resolution to the law,
Right.
okay? And then if we want to amend the law, then we'll
Well,
take our chances.
You
if
would
we
be
choose.
expanding the area where you're allowed to expand it, but I caution you that it be very limited as to those words that I have said, significant and unexpected.
Exactly the way we'll do it.
Right.
I think that, is everyone in agreement with that? No? Yes. Yes, I saw a no. Word of the law, somebody wants to vacation in a helicopter, wants to put that on there, we'll have an amendment and we'll vote on it. You follow me? We're gonna write it to as close to the law as he possibly can.
Right.
Okay. I think I have agreement on that.
Yeah.
I'm seeing shaking heads.
Well, you, Claire.
Earl, you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. Angelo, prepare a resolution. We'll talk about it at the next meeting. If the resolution is acceptable. We're not gonna vote on it because we have to have a public hearing
Then you
before we
have a
vote on
public
it.
hearing.
We'll schedule a public hearing, which will be, we have to give them 30 days notice, correct, Judy? 45 days, so that will mean there will be no, when's the deadline? When is this video conferencing drop out?
Video conferencing 24.
Russ,
Yes.
can I make a recommendation?
You can do it anything you like.
I'm obviously okay with all this, but I don't, I'd like to propose that we do not allow it for executive session, and that executive session should be in person.
Okay, we could put that in.
Well, I mean,
It's already
that's just my
exempt, it's
opinion.
already exempt
There's-
from executive
Oh, it's already,
session.
oh, okay.
Right.
All right.
So we.
It's in the law.
It's
and it-
exempted
right.
in
There
the
you go.
law.
I thought you mentioned that audit committees and executive session, all that stuff was
Right,
permissible for video conferencing. You're saying it is not.
it's exempt, right.
Okay.
So it would be exempt. If we want to put it back in, we'd have to amend the resolution.
Well, you couldn't put it back in.
Okay. Well,
Because it-
whether we could put it back, well, goes to the law. You're
Right.
gonna advise us what we should do, whether we do it, what you advise is another story. Okay, everybody on board? That's the direction we will take. So, clarify for me, sir. When does video conferencing, call in, everything end?
It has already ended.
Okay,
I will
so our
recheck,
next meeting for
recheck
the
that
next
again.
2 months,
Right.
there will be no call-ins, no video conferencing. You wish to call in, you're not part of the meeting. Am I correct in assuming that?
I would assume that's it. My understanding was that the video conference, or the remote meetings ended 60 days or 90 days from the April 9th. I'll have to recheck it. In either event, we're past both of those days, if
Okay.
that is on there.
So video conferencing is out until further notice, until the resolutions are passed. I have no problem somebody calling in if they wish or they want to, but they will not be voting. And they will not be shown present. So we're all clarified, so we all understand. Got it?
Yep.
Okay. Saying that, any other questions? Appreciate the conversation. Thank you for all your input. And no, I'm getting there. You in a hurry? You gotta go home? Motion for adjournment, please. Thank you, Paul. Nick, I had a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everybody.
Aye.
Judy, I got.
Good night, Earl. Be safe.
Have a good night.
Be safe, sir.
Damn hip.
Oh, that was a
Good
long
night,
one.
Ray. Thank you.
Yeah, babe. It's long.
That was a long one.
To why? No.
Done. Where's Earl?
Smeal? Took off. We ran him out of here. Congratulations, Mr. Capizzi. Good hard work, buddy.
Maybe that's why you were